Hello, humans. It's Rob here with Not a Robot Podcast, DC Comics Review Show number 143, the world's greatest comic show about the world's greatest superheroes. And with me, as always, is Josh.
Hey there, man, and everybody. Real quick question. Did you know that Superman was the only kid that was ever allowed on the playground?
No.
Yeah, the sign said supervision required.
I look forward to these now every week. It's a bright spot on the Thursdays. And joining us this week is our special guest host and awesome friend of the show, Nathan.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Guest in the fight against the Olympic gods. Guest who just got the powers of Mary Marvel too. That's right. You can now call me Shiz Nathan. I don't know. From do you remember the whole Shazadam chaos?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you guys so much for inviting me on.
Happy to have you.
Thank you.
It's been a minute. What's new going on in the world, mate?
Mostly just keeping to myself. I'm got a bunch of stuff coming out for Comic Book Herald soon, including, of course, the new Dawn of the DCU reading order, and they got something from Marvel related coming up soon. So that's been fun. And otherwise, I've been kind of light. I've mostly been focused on my current things going on in my real life. Not that this isn't real, but it's a different type of real. And I'm excited to talk comics because it's been a very fun couple months of new DC stuff.
I agree. Yeah, the Dawn of the DCU has been quite the initiative. I've been excited about it so far.
Last week definitely got me stoked for it.
Wait. What specifically about last week?
I said last week definitely got me stoked for the Dawn of the DCU.
Right, he was asking what from last week got you so excited.
Yeah, what specifically from last week?
Now you're going to make me look that up. I don't even remember.
We only had 4
books
last week.
Yeah, last I checked, it was a very quiet week last week.
Maybe
that's why I'm kind of curious.
That's probably why I don't remember what it is. It was the week
before.
The beginning of the Dawn of DC.
Fair enough.
All right.
The first Nightwing issue.
It's been an interesting rollout with the with the staggered releases. In some ways, I really like it, and in some ways, it's exactly what Marvel's doing. Except DC's we're doing it this way, whereas Marvel's just relaunching stuff every month or so. There's a new relaunch of something, and then they're not advertising it as a new relaunch, even though it really is. So it's a very different, and in some ways it's the exact same thing Marvel's doing, but they're very different approaches. And one's we're making a big deal out of it. The other's we're just going to pretend everything's going on like normal. Despite now the X-Men are relaunching again, Guardians of the Galaxy just relaunched, Spider-Man relaunched early last year. Everything's been relaunching at Marvel. And so some of my work with Comic Book Herald lately has been looking at what does the actual continuity look like right now? What books do you actually need to read to get caught up? So it's an interesting time to be enjoying this the trends of comic releases that these universes are known for.
Right. If a guy came up to me and said, "Hey man, I'm looking to get into Marvel comics, specifically Spider-Man. Where do I pick up?" And I say, "Well, any of the 11 number ones out of the last 2 years." That's an exaggeration, but that's kind of a Marvel thing.
Yes, although it is partly because they tend to like to do 6-issue minis and then they just relaunch a lot. But with their ongoing stuff, I think it feels like they've relaunched 500,000 times in the last 6 years. But if you really think about it, so is DC. DC's had 4 or 5 different creative runs on Batman since 2016. Marvel's had only one other creative run on Spider-Man, right? And so, but because of the way it's marketed with all these, I guess 2 different runs, because Beyond and then now this relaunch, which isn't very good, but whatever. And I think it's a similar vibe, because I remember DC kind of did a similar approach to what Marvel's doing right now in 2018, where a lot of the Rebirth books all had a relaunch during like the Summer of Heroes. That's when we got the Justice League Odyssey, the new Justice League by Snyder. We got like a new Teen Titans run, a new Titans lineup, and we got a bunch of relaunches just across the board. But they didn't say, we're relaunching everything, go check it out, like these are new accessible runs. They just said, they just slowly staggered it. And I think one of the things that they found didn't work very well with that approach was that no one like knew when they were jumping in, oh, I can jump in here. So a lot of those runs had a lot less success than just saying, hey, we're restarting stuff. And so I like this more focused and organized approach to relaunching.
You know, I gotta say, I really, really... Am I on mute? No. I gotta say, I really hate when people bring up Justice League Odyssey. And the reason for that is it got canceled. It got spread out and delayed for no reason. And it's literally Joshua Williamson's only cape book that I've ever enjoyed.
Well, what's important to realize is Williamson talked in an interview. I remember writing about this when the interview came out. Was he said that he only wrote 5 issues of it, and the reason why he said he quickly found it was just really hard for him to write team books, and so he was like, I just want to write solo stuff because this is just too hard for me, and I don't even though I have a great idea, I just can't execute this because this isn't my style of writing. And I think you can kind of see that with like the weaknesses of Dark Crisis or Justice League Infinite or Incarnate, or like even like Deathstroke Inc. when it got too past like just Deathstroke himself. And so I think like that's one of his big struggles is he's not good at the ensemble cast. And even though I liked the first 5 issues a lot, I think it took a lot out of him. And so of course the writing passed on to Dan Abnett, who had recently written Aquaman. And I think Williamson's trying to say, let me just write Superman. I can do Superman. I can do Batman and Robin. I can do Green Arrow. These like one characters versus I can do the entire Justice League lineup. You know, like those are 2 very different styles of writing.
Yeah, that's
to
understandable.
Say the least.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's current events. To go back to an old
question. Yeah. If somebody came up to me and asked me where to start with Spider-Man, I would say Fantastic Four.
Right.
Which one?
Just skip the rest.
FF.
Anything besides Dan Slott. I did not enjoy Dan Slott's run, but I enjoyed everything else. FF, like Future Foundation stuff specifically, because Spider-Man's actually included in that heavily, and it was awesome. Yeah, Hickman's Fantastic Four was amazing.
I think the new Fantastic Four run that's going on right now is phenomenal. If you haven't been reading it, it's kind of like, it's like Star Trek sort of like episodic style, where it's like, here's some solution. Let's have some moral discussions about like what is right and what is wrong as we work through this problem. And then the issue ends and the problem's over. And there's some carryover between like the issues and character development and stuff. But I think it's kind of what I really want comics to move more towards. And so I'm very much enjoying the current run.
I agree. It's been awesome. I've been trying to get Josh to read it too. It's a heck of a book.
Is it a relaunch?
Yes. It started. It's 1 through. I think they've finished the 6th issue now.
So it's the 6th already.
Trade.
I guess. Because they did 1
this week. Yeah.
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3 were like solo books almost, and then
4 was together.
And then they did
the alternate universe. They had to go through the dimensions or whatever. And
with
the fallout of that. Okay, yeah. So I think 6.
Did I miss 6?
It just came out.
I'll check this week.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Either
also
way,
maybe So I haven't read it yet. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
Either way, Marvel's putting out some great stuff, but DC is putting out some fantastic books, like what we got this week. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's like beautiful transition. Thank you. So for this week's book specifically, we are looking at Batgirls number 17, Batman Superman World's Finest number 12, Catwoman number 54, Wonder Woman number 798, Superboy The Man of Tomorrow Round Robin 2022 winner number 1, Superman number 3, Nightwing number 103, and Flash 797, as well as a few honorable mentions, as is usually the case. But beyond even just this week's books, there are a number of other books announced this week coming soon, such as a book from James Tynion IV and Maria Lovett. Get out of the way, you bubble. Sandman's Thessaly, if I'm pronouncing that right. Again, I don't know much about the Sandman universe. This is more Josh and Brandon's wheelhouse. But this character
I'm so
is
excited.
getting their own solo series or solo.
This kind
I'm not
of
sure if it's a mini
this
or a,
kind
or
of
a
book.
ongoing. But...
I will trash the shit out of any Cape book that Tynion has ever written because I don't like any of them. But
Fair.
if you take those capes off and you put him in a horror setting or very dramatic setting, man, that's where Tynion shines. And I mean, I will not take that away from him whatsoever. It's just top of the line. I would put him, and I'm not exaggerating this. I would put Tynion on horror on the same level as Joe Hill. And
oh damn,
that's saying a shit ton from me.
Yeah.
I can't wait for this. I'll be really, really interested to check this out.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool to see. Yeah, I love Tynion's horror stuff, so I might just check this out.
Mm-hmm. gonna have to.
Yeah.
And
I do wish there was something.
Yeah?
I do wish there was something a little less horror oriented with some of the Sandman lineup, because they've of course got Dead Boy Detectives. They're doing a sequel to Nightmare Country, but I want something that's more in that like fantastical, joyful side of the Sandman universe. Because I feel like the last couple of picks have been a little away from that.
I feel like I feel like the reason why we're getting those is because there is an interest. A rising interest in horror comics, and it's been a long time since we've seen that. So I want to say they're trying to bring out unusual, niche and newer characters to the forefront first. But I absolutely have no doubt that we will be seeing Dream and the rest of them showing up, and we will go back into the almost what I would call romantic kind of style of writing for the Sandman universe, and I'm looking forward to it. It's just gonna take DC a little while to become comfortable in doing that. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, they've tried a couple times. They of course had the Sandman relaunch, and I want to say 2018 or 2019 with that. Those books were decent. House of Whispers was very well received. The Dreaming did well. Lucifer, Books of Magic, but I think they really fell apart and they didn't quite find their long-term audience. Whereas these books slowly are, which is part of it. I'm hoping the Sandman TV show, which just got some new news, that Dead Boy Detectives will be spinning out and in the same universe as Sandman.
Yes,
awesome. So basically, they're instead of being from Doom Patrol, it's those characters, but they're going to be in the Sandman universe instead. And I'm hopeful that Sandman's got
the same
bright future ahead of it.
The same actors, you mean?
Yeah, so it's the same actors. Initially, it was intended to be a Doom Patrol spin-off, but it's now going to be instead of a Doom Patrol spin-off, it's going to be a Sandman spin-off.
Fucking works for me, man. That's awesome.
Right on.
Speaking of new books, we also got the entirety of the Night Terrors event.
Yes. I was going to say that for last, but
okay.
I can go right in. I was debating on which one to do next, but I figure we'll break the news. Night Terrors is not just a terror for the DC heroes, but also a terror for your wallet. There will be over the course of, I believe it's July and August, around 20 books total for just this mini event. You will have the main series, which is 4 issues, and last week we announced some villain tie-ins. I believe there was about 6 or 7 of those. But this week, or actually I think it was last Friday they announced it. Of course, they always announce these the day after we record. 13 2-issue tie-ins for the heroes involved in this. And they come from all over the DC universe, from Batman and Nightwing to Flash, Shazam, Green Lantern to Zatanna, and wow, I thought I saw Detective Chimp on here, but not on the list. But I think Detective Chimp is involved somewhere. There's all sorts of characters, all written from different creative teams, and across July and August. It's a lot, but it looks interesting. It looks very exciting. I think we gave a brief summary of the plot of the story last week, so you can get an idea of what's going to be happening. All these heroes are going to be stuck in a nightmare world in their mind, and it's gonna really take into their deepest, darkest fears. And if judging from some of the covers,
definitely
it looks
don't
like there's
take
going to
it
be
as
nightmare
them
versions
going
of
through the.
themselves.
Definitely don't take this as them going through the exact opposite of what they literally just went through.
Yeah.
Being sucked over into their own worlds where everything was perfect. Oh, jeez. I love the original ideas. That's got me super stoked. I'm so happy about it.
Yeah.
Honestly, my fingers crossed. It's a Batman event, so it's either going to be amazing or it's going to suck balls.
Well, I think one of the things that's interesting is they've already confirmed that a couple books we do know are going to be taking a break while the event's going on.
Yes.
Specifically, we know like Superman, Joshua Williamson's Superman will be taking a break after issue 5. So it'll be Superman 1 through 5, then Night Terror's Superman 1 through 2, which is also written by Joshua Williamson, and then they'll be continuing with Superman number 6. So, and there's a bunch of these books that have the same creative writer as the series. We are still waiting on some confirmation about what the plan is for some of these books. We'll know that on Friday with solicit release. But for example, Shazam has the same writer, Batman has the same creative writer as the current title, Green Lantern will, Superman Action Comics will, Poison Ivy will, Catwoman will, and Harley Quinn will. So in terms of like getting like continuing the stories, like there'll still be some decent continuation and tie-in. We just still don't quite know the full extent of what is being taken a break and what isn't. I am curious though about your perspective on this approach. Like, what do you guys think of this approach when it comes to like taking like 2 months to release a bunch of like short 2-issue things and then use that time to also prep and get ready for what's to come?
It's literally the only way comics should be done. Batman should not be off on Apocalypse saving the world at the same time that he's chasing down a lead on the Penguin. The continuity for me goes out the flipping window when that shit happens. It makes everything convoluted. I think it's fantastic, and I think that it should have been going on for quite a long time, and I hope that they continue this trend, that books will go on pause because those characters are in the middle of something, a very huge event. So they shouldn't be dicking with Metallo or the Joker.
Yeah. That's a very good point. And it's something DC's done before. Like we had roughly with 1 year later back in the 2000s, and with when New 52 started, they did the first few years that every October they did a villain event up until Forever Evil, which the books for that month took a break and the villains took over, and it certainly worked out quite well. So I think it's, if they continue this kind of model, anytime there's a big event, if certain characters are involved, just take a little break from the book. That's not a bad idea. Though if it's like a 8-month event run, that's too much. Maybe just take like a 1 or 2 month break near the end. Yeah.
An 8-month event is too much, period.
Yes.
I mean, that's
one of the problems with
some major events, right?
Yes, I mean, it's one of the problems with Dark Crisis was admittedly just how long it took to finish. Like, all interest died by the end. It was like, okay, it was good the first, like, 2 months, but now I'm ready for new things, and everything's being held back as we wait for this 8-month event to finish. So I like the approach to these shorter events. I think it's 4 issues bi-weekly. That feels right. All these tie-ins are interesting. I think they provide a lot of creator freedom. And I think it also helps let some titles get ahead. I mean, Future State was a good example of this sort of approach, where like writers got to get really together and like focus on like making sure that they were ready for what was coming after. while Future State was being like going on, and as well as giving some new talent the ability to shine.
That's what should be continually going on as well. And it's one of the reasons why I loved Future State so much, is because they got together, and as much as I suffered from magistrate fatigue, and believe you me, I did, I could not help but appreciate how it was very evident how all of the creative teams worked together on making that story.
Yeah.
And damn. And I'll throw it out there again. That was Tamaki at the top of her game.
Yeah. I also think it really helped some of the stories get a little in sync with each other. For example, I think most notably the Batman line was really, really solid that first like year. Where even if you didn't love Fear State and those like the magistrate books, it was hard to deny there wasn't like a clear plan from all of the writers in Gotham. Like every book had a purpose and a goal and a point they were leading towards. It was really satisfying seeing all these points intersect with each other and really come together in a way that felt very epic, and like there was a plan all along. And then after that, the Gotham stories just kind of fell apart as they lost a lot of their focus. Notably, Shadow of the Bat was obviously an incredible event that that clearly mattered to every book in the line, you know? It's sarcasm. And
what? Yeah, I was gonna say. What?
I'll be honest. I don't even remember which one you're talking. Which one was Shadows of the Bat?
It was the 15-issue Arkham Asylum or the Arkham Tower falls apart.
Oh
storyline.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the storyline a lot. I enjoyed the storyline a lot, but it wasn't. But like the point is, like, it didn't help the line stay connected. And I'm really hoping that they use this 2-month period, to really say, hey, let's make sure whatever stories are coming up, we have both a plan and something like a goal that will make the like story in the world make sense and connect.
Yeah, when you get the offices working in sync like that is great. I wish it was all the time, but like I think there's only a handful of offices that are big enough to really need that. Like the Flash office is one person, the Green Lantern office is one person, the Aquaman office is somewhere in the basement, but like Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman offices are fairly big, I guess, in comparison. Hey, how many books does Wonder Woman have right now? Just the one?
It's just one. There's beliefs there's more coming. There's probably more coming, but it's
unless
like I said, they're launching one title at a time. So
I mean, they got to bring back a lot of the characters we haven't had in a while. Like, we're getting Shazam, we're getting Green Arrow, we're getting GL, we're getting Cyborg getting a mini or ongoing again. So yeah, it's gonna be exciting to see. And speaking of characters returning, we're getting not one, not two. Is it 3? I guess technically it is 3 Titans books this summer, with the announcement of Tales of the Titans #1, which is a 4-issue series, each book highlighting a different member of the Titans, specifically Starfire, Raven, Donna Troy, and Beast Boy, or Changeling, however you prefer to code him, or we just go with Gar because it's
Beast Boy.
Easier. So each one's going to be a story about these characters. Starfire's, we know a little bit about, is going to be a story about a spaceship landing on Earth, or crash landing on Earth, that suspiciously looks like a Tamaranian model, and Starfire intercepts to figure out what's going on. That is all we know so far about the series, but it is coming this summer, and that is something to look forward to. Headline does say a 3rd Titans book, and I know we're getting the Titans ongoing from Tom Taylor.
So
guess the 3rd is Nightwing?
Yeah. No, so technically, if you want to include Nightwing, there's technically 5 books that are kind of confirmed in this universe right now. So we've got Nightwing, Titans, Tales of the Titans, and then we got Teen Titans World's Finest, which is a new book that's written by Mark Waid. Written by Mark Waid, which is a continuation of the sort of World's Finest timeline. It looks very fun. It's focused on sort of like your original lineup when they were Teen Titans. And then you've also got your 5th book right now, which is Night Terror's Teen Titans, because they're doing a Teen Titans tie-in. And then, but that's a lot of Titans. That's more Titans than I think we've maybe ever had.
Realistically,
close to it. Like, close
at least
to
two
it.
of them are only limited series. At least one of them's a 2-issue,
Yeah.
one's a 4-issue. So it'll only last for a few months anyway, and then, then we'll get back to what some people consider a normal amount of Titans.
Well, I think it's interesting because they said, hey, we want Titans to be this new center of this universe. And I think this is them kind of saying that by giving us a lot of Titans content and really giving time and focus onto exploring where these characters are at. I remember there was a very good Raven story in Lazarus Planet, and I kind of want some continuation of that because I really enjoyed that story and I want to see that plot line move a little further with Trigon getting some like new allies. And then you've also gotten this Titans book today, or the Nightwing book today, which is essentially a Titans soft launch, or what you would call it, a backdoor pilot. It's kind of a backdoor pilot comic. Is kind of like in that same vibe, and I'm really hoping they do some cool stuff with that. I really like the approach to giving the Titans more space. I think Tales of the Titans is a really nice way to explore it. That's not super complicated, but just gives like more writers the chance to explore the characters. And I really like what they're doing with the Titans so far.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We haven't had proper Titans book in a while. Can't even remember when Teen Titans ended. I mean, unless you count Teen Titans Academy.
Titans becoming the new Justice League. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I just want it to stay. And you can send Clark, Bruce, Diana, and Barry. You can send Clark, Bruce, Diana, and Barry out into space and let them handle all the cosmic shit and let the Titans be the Justice League of Earth.
I mean, it's a lot what they were doing with the Flash. Wally was going to be the Central City Earth-based Flash, and Barry was going to go off with the JLI into the multiverse.
Which is what
Except he then just got imprisoned for 2 years. Yeah. But, minor detail. Yeah. But what I think you were saying earlier, you remember when last time we had a Titans book proper, if you're not counting Teen Titans Academy, was 2020. It got canceled early 2020. It was the New 50. It was the Rebirth reboot run.
Yeah.
So it was the lineup with Miss Martian. I think it was early 2020 got canceled, and then the Teen Titans got canceled in I want to say October of 2020.
Oh
right?
Yeah, Titans. Yeah.
And that was then Teen Titans. That was the run where Damian Wayne like locked everyone up, and then had his first kiss with the Djinn. Roundhouse was one of those members. But I want something a little more normal. There are rumors about a Teen Titans Dark, which would be
that's
Red
been
Canary,
going on for a bit.
Yes, which would be Red Canary, Stitch, Damian, Black Alice, and Monkey Prince. I think was the lineup, which is an incredible lineup of like new people, which I'd be totally down for. But obviously, those are still just rumors, based off. I think some of it's just conjecture based off Lazarus Planet. But I'm excited for wherever they take this Titans lineup.
Yeah, a Teen Titans Dark would be interesting, but the whole Dark moniker is kind of interesting in my opinion. Wasn't there an idea for Justice Society Dark as well? It just feels like maybe it's too much dark, but I'm still excited for an idea for Teen Titans Dark. Like that would be very cool, especially with that lineup. Stitch was amazing.
When was the last Justice League Dark? It was also in 2020, so we haven't had a Justice League Dark in a while.
I'm not saying like we're having too much, but like not that we're having too much of it, but like we're not really having any of it. But the idea of like Justice League Dark was such a unique idea, but DC tends to do this thing where they have a unique idea and then they just shove it everywhere and try to make it stick everywhere and have it work with everything. Like with Justice Society Dark, if that was a thing, it'd be interesting. I'd be into it at the time, but at the same time I'd be thinking like, isn't it just Shadow Pact at the same time?
No.
Like, why do we need does it need to
it's the Sentinels of Magic, dude.
Sentinels of Magic. I always forget that name. I remember Shadow Pact.
But I think one of the things to think about is if they're saying, hey, we want Titans to be the center of the new Justice League, right?
Yeah.
Then it makes a lot of sense for their new dark/magic-y book to be oriented around Titans. So like Titans Dark. I mean the rumors Teen Titans, although some of the players aren't exactly teens. I mean, I guess like Red Canaries in college.
Kind of.
But regardless, like I think it makes a lot of sense from that approach. Where this is just the new Dark lineup. It's not like they're going to have a Justice League Dark and the Teen Titans Dark. So I don't think that uniqueness really gets lost personally.
My only hope is that if it does come to fruition, have Raven involved. Because if you're going to have a Titans character that is magic-based, Raven is the pinnacle. And if you're going to have Teen Titans Dark, Raven really should be on the team, if not the team leader. Because you also have that experience plus someone who has leadership capabilities. I don't really synonymize Damian with magic so much. I know.
I mean, he's been around it since birth, man.
Yeah, like.
If you had to pick a Batman family member to throw in there, it would be Damian.
Yeah.
Okay, but also, like, not all of the Justice League Dark lineup is exactly magic adjacent. Like, Swamp Thing isn't quite magic, right? You also have, like, Man-Bat, Detective Chimp. Like, some of these aren't exactly fully, like, magic-oriented. So,
no,
I'm
there's
not,
people
like,
who have had a lot of
it.
experience with magic.
Yes. And Damian has had a lot of experience with magic in general, especially compared to some other heroes. And I also think they've been setting him up to have sort of this leadership role. I mean, one of the most notable parts of Lazarus Planet was just the amount of, like the focus on like, Batman can't do anything right now, so everyone needs to look to Damian. And I think this is them sort of setting him up to be like a leader of like a big team and not just I'm the leader of the Teen Titans because I say so. You know, like it's a very different vibe.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of Lazarus Planet was Batman saying, "No, listen to him. He knows what he's doing."
Yeah. And you can tell with the art too, they've been slowly making him a little taller with every couple months, to where like he feels like he's like a more mature teenager now. Whereas I will tell you, 2 years ago he did not feel that way. I think it's been really. I think it's some of the most clever world building they've really done with any of their characters. It's small. But as this last 2 years has gone on, you've really felt Damian growing and maturing and shifting. I remember when he was young, he was like, "I'm so sad that that a friend of mine has died, so that I am going to lock every prisoner in my own cave." And now he's like very confident. He's like starting to be able to lead like groups of people.
Yeah, he's definitely gone through the ringer in terms of growing up, and I am excited to see where they can take him with that, especially growing up naturally and organically and not being trapped in a volcano for 4 freaking years. I'm still a little bitter about that, I'll be honest with you.
Everyone's a little bitter about it.
Yeah. I like current John. I do. I love modern day John being aged up, as I'm sure most people do, but it's, part of me is always going to miss that kid John because he was so much fun.
I just want him to find a little bit of that personality that I think gets lost between like kid John to like current John. I feel like he's now he's a bit too Superman carbon copy-esque, to where like I like him, but I feel like I like him more because of what he used to be rather than what he is now. Like, I think if I dropped into a comic now without any of that background, I don't think I would feel the same way about John that I do because of that background. And I think that's really sad because I think he's one of the best legacy characters. And I feel like he's lost so much of what makes him so good. And I like his run with Tom Taylor. I think him coming out and being queer was the right choice. I just feel like some of that personality is a little lacking. Like, I don't know, like I don't want to say come out of his shell, but I think like he needs to either deal with the trauma and really like focus on the trauma in this current series, or he needs to find a way to become more uplifting. Because I feel like this like carbon copy just isn't working quite for me. But like I'm still enjoying the books.
Like at least not since, more recently, every time I think about John being aged up so rapidly, I mean in book wise, I can't help but think about, and Josh, I know you have heard me talk about it, I think you've watched it before, Nathan, I'm not sure if you heard it. A Canadian cartoon called Reboot, and there was a character called Enzo, who was just like John Kent as a kid, was very bubbly, and you watched him grow in the first couple of seasons as a kid, and he was very full of energy and very ready to jump in and help out with stuff, and lots of personality. And then shit went downhill fast, and the city was under attack, the villains took over, everybody lost, and he got sucked away into another world and grew up in like the course of 2 weeks, because it's in a computer at the same time. I should put that in place as well. It's in a computer, so he got upgraded, you could say. And when he showed up at the beginning of season 3 and he was a grown man, he also lost that same personality, and he was very gruff and very serious and didn't have that same bubbly personality, and never really got that back up until the show's unfortunate cancellation. It's the same. It's the same like where John ended up. Sorry.
He spent a long time being trapped inside a volcano against. I mean, that would ruin my bubbly attitude for the rest of my life too.
John was stuck in a volcano, tormented by Ultraman for a few years, just like Enzo was stuck in what was essentially a heaven and hell based Mortal Kombat fighting game where he got slashed in the eye and lost it day 1. And that really took a toll on him. But I agree with Nathan, like getting some of that bubbly personality back. It's been some time now. He's been back in the world, and he's faced his demons, and he's facing them again right now in Adventures of Superman. It's probably a good time to get some of that fun side back.
Yeah, and I think like one of the ways you can find that fun side back is look into like what kind of dialogue does Spider-Man use now. I'm not saying go full Spider-Man, but like some of that essence is some of what I think is missing, like that joy and that like I'm having fun even though things are tough around me, is something I think that would elevate the character back to where I think I view him as.
Yeah, definitely don't go full Spider-Man. We don't need a clone John Kent.
No, definitely not.
No, but I would take Sideways written like that.
Yeah, I had that thought. Yeah.
Or like Spider-Man.
As long as it's not Dan Sideways.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was the whole thing that Didio was trying to get across with Sideways. It was definitely a Spider-Man-like character, even down to the costume design is very Spider-Man-esque. I really miss Sideways, man. Every time it gets brought up, I wish that book kept going.
Yeah. I mean, the problem was his book wasn't great. The character is great. The book wasn't great, and as his debut book,
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, at least it was what the New Age of Heroes or whatever the initiative was being called.
It was the only good book of the New Age of Heroes, and it wasn't great.
I was gonna say there's of all the books, that one definitely I think would lasted the second longest. I think Terrifics lasted the longest.
Yeah,
Terrifics was very hit or miss for me. Like I read maybe half that run begrudgingly because I wanted to like it and I enjoy all the characters, but it was very, very boring.
Yeah,
and I enjoyed. I say I enjoyed that. I forget the character's name because she hasn't showed up in Silencer. Yeah, I enjoyed Silencer. Yeah. Those are the only 3 I really kind of liked, and the rest.
There's something about Curse of the Brimstone that was really fun. I don't know how to describe it, but it was like I just really enjoyed the vibe of Curse of the Brimstone. But it was a cool idea that was executed so poorly that that DC is too scared to ever try it again. Although I would say in many ways the new I Am Legends imprint is kind of a return to that vibe. They're saying, hey, let's introduce 3 brand new heroes with sort of the goal of diversifying and introduce 3 different unique Asian heroes, and then let's tell short stories with them. And I think I'm hopeful that approach really works and does well, and DC says, oh, we can focus on adding new heroes and messing around with what our new ideas can we come up with.
Yeah. Sorry, how was it you described Curse of Brimstone?
I thought I just liked the vibe to it. There was something that was really fun about it. It wasn't incredible, but it just sticks with me. The art and the imagery and the location setting and all the characters looks. A lot of that just stuck with me. I don't know how to describe it.
Curse of Brimstone and Damage. I Damage even worse. I was like, what the fuck am I reading? Silencer
it's not a good book.
Silencer was a cool character. Sideways is a cool character. The Terrifics, when it was being a goofy book, was good. But everything, it was decent. But everything else.
I'm not asking for Curse of Brimstone to return. I'm good if it never shows up again. I just enjoyed parts of the book.
Yeah. Silencer I liked because it was different, and while it did have some tie-ins to the overall DCU, it wasn't the type of book you get from DC at the time. It's unlike anything we'd seen in like 10 years. Very espionage oriented, very secretive, very little superpowers. I thought it was very out there and interesting for DC at the time, and it's a shame we didn't get more of that.
Yeah, I really want them to do something with like Blue Beetle, like Sideways. I think like those two characters have very similar vibes, but I want to see them. I think in the same way, like I Am Legends really focuses on elevating like Asian heroes. Like let's take a look at some of these new like Latinx heroes and see what we can do with them.
Yeah. Now, while you're here, before we get into the books, I do want to ask you a question. How do you feel about the theories / rumors about when the eventual return of the Justice League does happen, whether it's this year, next year, or 5 years from now, that the core team that you usually get the same players, but the core team mixes it up a bit, and you get characters like Blue Beetle on the Justice League, you get maybe Martian Manhunter sticks around, you get Donna Troy up there, you get a couple of the old players too, you'll get Superman, maybe you'll get Batman, you get a Green Lantern, you get Wally West, but mixing up the team a bit, like specifically Blue Beetle was one that I think a lot of people would really be interested in seeing, especially after what we've seen in Graduation Day. How would you feel about that? What kind of lineup would you want to see with the scope we have?
I think it was funny. The last time or one of the times I was on this podcast, he said, I don't think Justice League comics, I think Justice League is the worst comic at DC. Not because it's always like the worst comic, but because I think it often hurts the lineup as a whole. Because the story, like the company gets caught up in trying to make Justice League work, but then Justice League like doesn't tend to have great synergy with the rest of the stories around it. And there's not a lot of great Justice League stories. On the other hand, Justice League has ruined a lot of comics. A great example is Scott Snyder's Justice League is one of the better Justice League runs, but it had like You're the Villain, and like the attempts to tie the story of Justice League in with everything else had a lot of damaging effects on the back half of Rebirth. And I think Justice League is the single biggest trap of DC. I think it's the same way that like Avengers hasn't had a ton of success since like Jonathan Hickman's run. I think it's just really hard, and it requires a lot of careful coordination to make work. I mean, like one of the better versions of these like big macro team up books is like early 2000s Avengers, where like basically every issue in Avengers was got referenced in some capacity, and they like made very, very careful sure that like the characters the books the characters solo or main in were like the most important story of the like batch. And I think a better approach, and this is kind of where I think they're going, is it says Return of the Justice League is it's not even a rumor, it's kind of a leak. I think they intend for people to be able to see it in the image, that like they turned up the brightness or whatever and the saturation, and they were able to see the words Return of Justice League. But I really think that this is the Yara Flor, John Kent, Jace Fox story, and they'll be like the new Justice League or something like that will be the title. And because I think this is all coming from like the Amanda Waller plot thread that we'll be hearing more about at the end. I think in 2 weeks from now we'll be getting our first like full tease of it with the Free Comic Book Day stuff.
Right.
So I'm curious to see where they're going with it. But I really think that the solution should be a sort of like Yara Flor, Jonathan Kent, Jace Fox, Calderon. It's not Calderon, but Jackson Hyde. Let's do Blue Beetle, and let's do like Damian Wayne or something as like the Batman representative. I guess we have Jace Fox as Batman, so maybe you don't need Damian. But like that lineup of Justice League that I think kind of began at the beginning of Future State was that lineup I think was so fun. And I think there's so much potential to explore there. And let's use that as a great opportunity to finally get Jess Chambers into the mix, because Jess Chambers keeps like being on the outskirts, and you can tell they want to use them. They just haven't figured out where and how to get them from their alternate universe to the main line, even though they keep getting closer and closer. So let's solidify that. And I think that's a better approach, because I think those are heroes that have so far don't seem to be getting a ton of screen time in the current list of books. And I think they're running out of space for that many more books. Obviously, I assume Jonathan Kent will get a new book after his story ends. But I don't know what's going with Yara Flor, Jackson Hyde, or this sort of stuff. So I just think that that's the best approach for where to put these characters. And then give it to a writer like John Ridley, or who are some of the better team writers? I thought
Mark Ridley's not going to write that.
I mean, Jace Fox. I mean, it's possible. I think... Mark Waid seems to be the obvious answer here, in terms of like the way he used Lazarus Planet, and the team writing, and that was fantastic. And I'd love to see Mark Waid take on that kind of book. I think he's one of those few caliber writers who can do it. And I think it'd be great. The other option is Tom Taylor, but I also don't want him writing. I think Tom Taylor's running out of extra books he can write.
Oh yeah, he's got a lot on his plate.
I'm like right there with you, Nathan, with some small exceptions. I think that those members that are the Titans right now should graduate to the Justice League. And I think that those members you listed for the Justice League should graduate to being the Titans. And I am coming to the conclusion, and this isn't like obvious or hasn't been leaked or rumored. It's just me coming to the conclusion that I'm almost positive that Mark Waid's World's Finest is DC's answer to those who don't want to read the woke comic books. So I think he's going to be tied up in World's Finest for a while. But I would like to see Jeremy Adams write it.
Ooh, that's a good pick. I think
it is. He's good with teams. He's good with making sure voices are different and respecting personalities. I think he would be great.
Yeah. He killed the group book with 1 Minute War, so yeah, you can definitely run lots of characters at once.
Oh yeah.
I think I'm with you. I think one thing that's interesting is I know there's a lot of hate on 5G, but I thought one of the things that they did really good, one of the ideas that really worked with 5Gs was the sort of like telling stories in different timelines and letting them all have their own weight. Like, we know that these World's Finest books will eventually do a team up or something, right? Like, that is like they're going to be in their own little timeline space. But I think one of the things that made 5G interesting was they were like, we're going to have 4 different eras, and we're going to tell stories in each of the eras. And we'll have our main era where we're telling all this stuff. But then if you want this, like, older style of book, you can go to the Generation 1 to get some Wonder Woman, Golden Age Wonder Woman stuff, or Generation 4 content, or wherever you want to place it. And I thought that World's Finest is kind of that approach. And I think you're right. I just don't yet know if they're fully ready to say, hey, we feel comfortable enough taking that leap forward. But I hope
that's a fair enough.
I hope they are. That's one of the biggest mysteries with Dawn of the DCU is just what is the plan with this lineup of characters who you spent all of the last 2 years passing the mantle to, who've now gotten no announced story.
Yeah. I feel like Dawn of the DC might be DC's way of doing 5G without tipping their hat to Didio. Like, obviously, there's quite a few differences, but I mean, they are borrowing a number of ideas from it. That's for damn sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You got any other news, Rob?
No, that's about it. I was kind of just absorbing all this information because there's like so many different directions this could go, and like I'm excited about the future. At the end of the day, I'm just excited about the direction. I haven't been this excited about DC in a long time. I think not since Rebirth, maybe, have I been this excited for DC. So I'm stoked to see.
I mean, I agree.
am really looking forward to next week.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what's next week?
I don't know.
It's just like Wednesday's already passed, so let's go. Now you look forward to next week.
But yeah, it's an exciting time to be. It's an exciting time to be a DC fan. It's a little annoying as a DC reading order writer because they can't seem to decide what books are over and what books aren't, and that's been a little frustrating. Cough, cough. Batman Inc. Cough, cough. Joker, the man who can't stop laughing, or whatever that book is called. But I think this is the best, one of my favorite times of DC, just because it feels so full of potential. And we've gotten to the point where we have all this like ideas of what these books will be. We're like, Tom King's doing a Wonder Woman book. It's gonna be great. And then of course 4 months in, we're gonna see some of the Endgame content. We'll be like, oh, Tom King's doing the Wonder Woman book. Oh, so we're still at this time where our eyes are so open and excited. And there's a chance that everything will deliver. So far, it's been delivering. The Superman stuff has been great. I'm very excited for Cyborg coming up. I've heard incredible things about the Shazam book coming up. But, like, I've got that little bit of nerves. And I'm ready for the bubble to pop. And I'm fearing it's going to pop.
It's going to happen.
But so far, so good.
At some point. Like you can't...
Next week.
We
got the end of Graduation Day. We've got the end of Lazarus Planet. We've got Action Detective, we've got Harley Quinn, and Green Arrow #1.
Hell yeah.
It's looking like next week could be an excellent week.
I hope so.
So
I can't wait for Green Arrow.
So you're saying Green Arrow could pop the bubble? I'm sorry, I'm really nervous about this book. I'm very nervous about this book.
I
hope it's good.
Cautiously optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic because Joshua Williamson seems to have put a lot of effort into building this book over the past 6, 7, 8 months with the other stuff he's written. So he's definitely put some work into it. And with that, I think it's still, 7 issues only so far. I don't think this one hasn't graduated ongoing yet, I don't think. But we'll see.
I thought it was already confirmed ongoing. But
it's hard to keep track. It really is hard to keep track.
Yeah, it really is.
Have.
I'm pretty sure it's ongoing. But one of the things I remember of this book is there was an interview back towards the beginning of Infinite Frontier where Joshua Williamson was asked about Green Lantern and whether Connor Hawke, after his return, would meet up with Green Arrow, and like there would be a family reunion of sorts because everyone was kind of scattered to different books. And he was like, yes, they have a story planned. And then 2 years later, that story is finally here. So hopefully he's had 2 years to think about it. Hopefully he's got like an actually good story for it. But I am a little nervous. But
that's fair. Like that's you always have to. I will say when it comes to a Joshua Williamson book, and this is my I say cautiously optimistic. That's my default setting with a new Williamson book, and I think you have to have that because he has been hit or miss in the past. Sometimes good, sometimes not so great. But we'll see. Definitely got some stuff to talk about later today with some Williamson books that I'm excited to get into.
Well, let me knock those honorable mentions out of the way real quick.
I had another thought, but I forgot what it was, so go for it. Honorable mentions time.
Real easy one this week. DC Silent Tales #1, a little anthology book. It was less than impressive, like most anthology books. War of the Undead Gods. I'm a deceased fan, and this one felt kind of boring. Like it wasn't felt kind of
the end of the saga.
Yeah, like I get what you're saying. It felt kind of boring because I felt that too, but it's also just like, this is it. There's nothing left. There's no more story. Right. So it's kind of just, it's almost sad that you're not going to see all these characters die anymore.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges to Deceased is that like it had such a great run because the premise is so good and the ability to do cool things with it was so good. But I think it ends in this sort of very stereotypical cosmic something's gonna happen that doesn't really make sense, and like that's, and like we just like you just have to accept it. For example, another good example is Avengers Assemble ended this week, and its story was a complete mess because it was like, we just have to make this make sense. It was like Starbrand, the being of fire and passion and love, or no, Starbrand is life, the being of life, and Firebird, not Firebird, the Phoenix, the being of love and passion, are gonna merge together and with it reform the multiverse and heal the multiverse that's been broken by all this assault on these like prehistoric Avengers from different multiverses.
Fuck?
And like
When
but, like,
has the Phoenix been the power of love?
okay, but like you know exactly what I'm talking about. This exact type of story of like nonsense happens because we just need nonsense to fix everything. Dark Crisis ended this way with the new multiverse appearing, and then Dick Grayson be like, "Let me be the former of the new multiverse." And then like this is just a common trope with these stories to get a little too big for themselves. I want to say it's lazy writing, but it's kind of lazy writing. And this is just another example of one of those finales where it's like, okay, like the fun stuff is done. We're just trying to wrap this up. And it ends with a sweet moment between John and Damian. But I'm a little sad they didn't kiss, but I'm going to pretend they didn't say that. And Damian sacrificing his life, sorry, spoiler alerts, was a... Not like, okay, sure, whatever. They were like, this is the end of Damian's story arc here. And I'm like, okay, this book's ending anyway. So do whatever you
everyone's
want.
story arc. Hearing you talk about Avengers Assemble, I haven't read that book. I haven't touched it. I don't know the first thing about it, but I'm already exhausted by it.
It's one of those examples of a run.
So much.
Well, Jason Aaron's run started really good. I really enjoyed it. I loved the stuff they were doing with the prehistoric Avengers. And the longer it went on, just the worse and worse it got, and the more convoluted it got, until it was just like existing to exist, and like no one was really all that into it anymore, but just kept coming out, and like it lost all of its energy by trying to go up to 75 plus issues, and it's finally over. And it marks, like, its ending today marks the final, it's wild to say this, but it's the last original Fresh Start book to come to an end. So thank God for that. I'm glad it's over. I don't recommend reading of the Avengers Assemble finale. It is not incredible, but it's my bigger point was that like Deceased has that same like finale vibe.
Yeah, like this should have felt bigger.
No, it's not that. It's that it gets so big it loses all value and meaning and like enjoyment.
I mean, I guess the climax, the wrap up, that should be where things mean the most. That should have been bigger. The story should have allowed it to build its way up to that. And I mean, let's be honest, Deceased since its very first issue has been going 3,000 miles an hour. To read this issue after all of that, it really felt like I ran out of gas, or maybe Taylor did, or possibly just the story. But in any case, that was Deceased War of the Undead Gods #8, and then the last honorable mention, which was probably the best out of the three, was Black Adam #10. I might be the only person that is still reading this book, but maybe it's just the way I like Priest writing.
I know I've kind of fallen off. I like Priest, but I fell off of this book. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah. Priest is a good writer. The style doesn't always work for me. And I like Malik as a character, but I do not care for Black Adam. And I think the story lost itself a bit. Like, it's a little convoluted.
A bit, yeah. It has its moments for sure.
But I want to see Malik continue. I just don't want to read more of this comic to get more Malik.
Yeah. Yeah, that's...
Well, who knows? Maybe he'll be a part of the next New Age of Heroes. Maybe he'll be teaming up alongside Jace Fox and Jaime Reyes.
And Sideways.
And Sideways.
Yeah.
Here's a request, though. Whatever team Sideways ends up on, Blue Beetle has to be on a different team, because it would be like reading the same character almost.
No, I generally want to see them together. I know that they're similar, but I kind of like the idea of having like two Latinx like heroes like be friends. Like, how often do we get those kinds of stories? You know, mm-hmm. Like that's part of it to me. Is we see white men being friends with each other all the time. Let's see something a little different, and I think it's a good way to go about it.
Yeah, I would love to see an idea where out of costume they're very good friends, become very close, but in combat their power set kind of trip each other up like sideways. Like I got this guy and like teleports in front of him, but then Blue Beetle's already flying at him and they just run into each other, just like a little bit of hijinks. They as much as their friendship is blossoming and they make a great team, they're also like in combat they have a lot of work to do. Like I want to see, as much as I want to see that positive reinforcement, I also want to see a bit of a struggle as well.
Yeah. It kind of sounds like Bart Allen teaming up with Bart Allen.
or Bart Allen teaming up with Ace West.
There is no such person as Ace West.
Ace West has happened, okay? It's everywhere. Uncle Ace.
Oh, fine. Then I'm going to start calling that car company Chevrolet. It's just going to be Chevrolet.
Chevrolet.
We're just going to change names that
don't
make sense. Are we going to start calling Bart Buddy and maybe Wally Sport? I mean, Ace, really?
No, you want me to, I will.
So, look, if you want to use the same naming convention, you would call Bart Art, and you would call, what was the other one? But what was
Wally.
It was Wally. You would call him Lee or like Ollie, Allie. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you can call him Ollie. It's not great, but that'd be the idea, naming convention wise.
I like Wallace's a silver suit more than I like Wallace's nickname.
Don't let Brandon hear that. I can hear him screaming from here.
Definitely hear from him about it in Discord.
All right, so I think we've been going over an hour now. I think we should get into some books. I'll start off with a quick bite section for the week. Number 1, we have Batgirls number 17, and Josh is going to tell us what's going on with the girls this week.
Written by Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad, art and colors by Robbie Rodriguez and Rico Renzi, respectively. Becca Carey on lettering, wrapped in a cover from Jorge Corona and Sarah Stern. So the Apparel Park Jubilee is happening, and Grace O'Halloran is trying to interview people there about how the Hill has been changing because of the Batgirls, who are having a great time there, dancing and whatnot. That is until a sniper shows up and starts shooting, but they can't find him. That's too bad, because later on during an arms trade, the sniper shows up again, and still no takedown. But we do find out that it looks like the sniper is actually going after the Batgirls. All 3 of them, in fact. So that's the book. I love Rodriguez and Renzi's art in here. It's fire. It's the best we've seen in the Batgirls books yet. Though I do understand, if I'm not mistaken, it's coming to a close very soon. This started out really, really, really bad. Story and art. The story is still all right. The story is now all right. All the elements. It's not going to be remembered in 10 years. This book isn't, but it's an okay, enjoyable read right now. It's just very typical Cloonan and Conrad, who have seemingly written no more than 5 good issues in their entire DC career together. And I think I might be being generous.
No.
But in any case...
No.
This one was okay. No, everything that they've written in Wonder Woman has been complete and total trash.
I won't say everything.
Well, guys, come on. First of all, First of all, I really enjoyed the first volume. I liked all the stuff with the Norse mythology. I thought that was great.
I agree.
The current, a lot of their work on this content with Hera and sort of like where they actually talk about the gods of Olympus has been pretty good. None of the Cisco stuff worked at all, but Dr. Psycho or whatever you want to call him. None of the Milk Corporation worked particularly well. Although I did really enjoy the return of the Milk Corporation, just as one of my favorite anecdotes to Wonder Woman mythology. But then Revenge of the Gods has been really good. So,
Ish.
I think they are capable of good work. I think there's just a struggle to figure out how to make their work have that gravitas and that character, that development that feels meaningful. It's hard to articulate, but I do like them. It's just like books, like they're some books just aren't for them, and I think sometimes the choices they make with their writing don't work.
Let's see.
Dude,
I would say
see
Wonder
Josh
Woman,
yell at me?
Batgirls, Catwoman, Harley Quinn. No, they didn't do Harley Quinn. Anyway,
Midnighter
what were you saying, Rob?
was good.
Midnighter was
story.
good.
Their Midnighter
So
story
yeah,
was good.
Midnighter was a good story.
Okay. Oh, I thought you actually didn't like that one. I thought you were going to yell at me for that.
This issue of Revenge of the Gods was a good one. Or excuse me, this issue of Wonder Woman was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And the last issue of Revenge of the Gods was pretty decent. But that is the extent of it. So more than 5 issues because of the Midnighter run. But I did respectfully forget that. And I don't hate people just because of who makes it. Like I said, I may have been JLO's only fan until about I don't know, issue 6 or 7, and then it just started falling.
When they changed writers,
crazy.
When they changed writers,
is that when it was? Oh well, shit.
Yeah,
then there you go. All right,
6.
so fucking Joshua Williamson. I shit on him every time he's got a book, but that I loved, man. I loved those first 5 issues. It was awesome.
Those were the only 5 you wrote.
That's amazing. I don't think I'd realize that.
There we go.
So
for Batgirls, like I said, best art that they have had in all 17 issues, but that's not enough to save it for me. This feels like the setup to literally every other Batgirls adventure we've had in this series so far. So I give it a 6.75.
Damn. I remembered something at first. Did you bring up the point that Brandon mentioned, I think earlier today, if not yesterday?
What's that?
That he found out Batgirls 19 is actually going to be the last issue.
Yeah. That's why I mentioned. I said I wasn't sure, but I seem to remember it's ending soon.
Yeah, which I think is a shame because I actually really enjoyed this issue, and it's got a lot of real world controversy in it, stuff that a lot of people are going through right now, and I always find those stories that simulate real life very interesting to a certain degree. They're not bombastic and wild, that I can enjoy from some other books, but stuff like this, like I don't even know how to describe it. I like it in a certain way, but I don't know how to describe how I like it. I think this one was well done. The art was quite well, and maybe I just don't know all my history with Steph and Casper. I don't remember when Steph took a bullet to the chest. Was that in this series, or was that something else?
That's when Taskmaster shot her. It literally just happened. Or not Taskmaster, Jesus Christ.
I was gonna say,
what?
When did Tony Masters show up?
DC Marvel crossover. It finally happened. Oh shit!
All
what's his
things,
name?
it was Taskmaster.
What the hell is his name?
Sportmaster?
Is it Sportmaster or Cluemaster?
Oh,
or some shit
her
like that?
Cluemaster. Cluemaster.
Yeah. Cluemaster. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I did forget that. Yeah, I forgot he shot her.
He shot.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, shit. I get it. Being someone that has been in a situation like that, like I like where there's an active shooter around, like I definitely think this was kind of well done and really simulated the feelings quite well. I gave this a 9 out of 10. Like it's not traumatic, like to bring up PTSD or anything, but it definitely will, like, you can sympathize with it in a way that you can't sympathize with everything else.
Fair enough. What about you, Nathan?
I have not read this issue. I am on that boat now.
Shame on you.
Okay, here's the thing. This is the problem. This is the main problem with these relaunches, right? When you relaunch your books in this way, where like you market it, my focus right now is primarily on what's part of Dawn of the DCU, and then trying to make sure that I have basic enough information of the books that aren't part of the Dawn of the DCU for like reading to finish polishing up some Infinite Frontier reading order stuff, right? And so for me, my entire focus is on really like what is like actually important in a sense. Like, what are the books that right now have reached the dawn of the DCU that like I can focus on? Their good starting points that I can write about and stuff. This is one of those books that then gets lost in the mix. I totally get that. Yes, and this is, and also just my time. Like, this is one of the books that gets lost in the mix. Like, I've read it for a little while. I've kind of fell off it because I wasn't in love with it, and then I've never returned. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm looking forward to new books coming out from this Batman lineup, but books like Batman Inc., Joker, the Man Who Laughs, or whatever. Like, those sorts of books have fallen by the wayside for me. But we know we're getting canceled. We're just waiting on them to get canceled officially.
Hey, Batman Inc. though? Yeah. I've been enjoying that now.
Batman Inc. is on the chopping block?
I hope not.
I didn't hear that.
Look, it's more that, like, given the fact they want to relaunch everything, I just have a hard time believing that they're like, Batman Inc. will join the dawn of the DCU with issue number 9 or 10. Like, it feels like one of those books that's likely to come to a conclusion before, like, sooner rather than later. It doesn't feel like it's going to be part of the dawn of the DCU.
Gonna follow the trend of recent books and end in the late teens.
I would say it probably ends at 12.
Oh, damn.
At the latest. Yeah. I think Joker's similar.
Oh, Joker, yeah, I 100% believe The Man Who Stopped Laughing is a Shadow mini, and they just haven't officially announced that.
I think Wildcats is the same way. I think that's coming to an end soon.
Shut your face.
Well, no, Wildcats got upgraded.
I'm out of podcast right now. Let me see.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. Let me double check that. I'm pretty sure that was one that got upgraded.
Then never mind.
I hope not, because that's been a great book, man.
I'm just saying it's probably on the chopping block, like just from a sense of like logistics and like what is dawn of the DCU. Like,
I got you.
Could continue.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that, as far as I'm classifying for now in my like reading order stuff, is like I'm just saying, look, it's before the dawn of the DCU, which basically means at the moment I think it's going to get canceled. But I think it'll probably be a couple months. They'll probably finish out with an issue with a certain issue.
We'll see. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm getting confused with something else. I don't know. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, Poison Ivy is the main one that got upgraded to an ongoing.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, because I just looked at the fandom post for Wildcats, and this says it's an ongoing series in DC Comics, and then it says later on it's a limited series in DC Comics. So even in that page, doesn't know what's going on. Anyway, speaking of books that will probably be going on for a long time, Batman Superman World's Finest number 12. We have reached this one, and this is written by Mark Waid with art from Dan Mora, colors from Tamara Bonvillain, and letters from Steve Wands, plus that usual gorgeous cover from Dan Mora. Jumping on from where we left off last issue, Bruce had been accused of murdering Simon Stagg thanks to some investigative reporting by Jimmy Olsen. And Bruce thinks Jimmy should probably just stick to taking photos because he's pissed off that he got arrested and is blaming Clark constantly for that sudden arrest. But despite all that, they still find the way to work together to figure out who Simon Stagg's killer really is, but then find out that he's not actually dead, but instead taken somewhere far, far away, and it's all just a plan schemed by Anthony Ivo to replace all of the world's richest people and take their billions for himself. He's upped his android game from a simple Amazo robots, and his technology has gotten so big, or what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Advanced.
Oh my god, thank you.
Sophisticated.
Advanced. That's you're reading my mind today. I love it. His technology has become so advanced that he has built a metamorpho copy that can make kryptonites, and this metamorpho copy, who is yet to be named, has gone up against Superman and Robin solo, who have stumbled upon Ivo's laboratory. So this tour that we're taking in World's Finest with the DC characters, I think, is really great. Especially this issue, we're getting into the billionaires and inventors in the DCU. Hell yeah, that's some of my favorite characters. You got Ted Kord showing up, kind of. He's mentioned. We got Anthony Ivo. You got the Metal Men. It's going to be cool. I love what Mark Waid's doing with World's Finest. We're getting like I said, the tour of the DC universe. And this mystery they got going on with Simon Stagg is taking turns that I really enjoy. I'm thinking this is a good one, as I feel has been the case with this whole series so far. I gave this an 8.75 out of 10. I can't wait to see how this one ends.
Did you get a chance to read it, Nathan?
I did read it. I think it's clear that Mark Waid is one of those writers who has this like very strong understanding of what makes this time period sing, and like what kind of modern writing can I bring to this era that makes the era feel fresh and fun without feeling like outdated and like it was a long time ago. And I think he's found that perfect mix. It gives me the same vibe as like in terms of like the logistically, like what it's trying to accomplish is like Strange New Worlds does with the current Star Trek universe. But this, like, let's go back to a classic formula and make it really work for like modern times. And he's nailing it. Like, it's super fun. Now, do I fully buy this? Am I fully on top of this like Amazo robot that can turn to kryptonite? No, but also like that's the style of the like silver of this era, right? Like goofy sci-fi concepts that make no sense but are totally like just accepted, you know? And I think Mark Waid continues to find the joy of that. And it's a really good book. I love the moment where he has the work call with Oliver Queen. And it's like, because you never see the side of Bruce where he's trying to make business deals. And Oliver Queen's like, you should join AI, or we want to invest in AI. And Bruce is like, uh-oh, red flag, red flag, red flag. It's so smart, it's so clever, and it's so unafraid to do all sorts of really cool things with this time period. And not just like break rules, but like find ways to make it fun and interesting. Last issue was a great example of it with or 2 issues ago with the Superman, with the Robin Supergirl date, which was super fun, so absurd, but like goofy and silly and enjoyable. The only confusion I have is how does this all work with like Kara turning 21 recently and them basically being the same age and dating? Because I've always thought of Dick as being more like 25, 26. So there's a slight issue there, but like I'm willing to accept it given how like good and consistent this series has been.
It's Supergirl's age, I think, is a bit of a mystery that no one can solve. Because that even depends on how old she was when she came to Earth.
Yeah. Well, and then also you've got this like side of like Tom King, for example, the most recent Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. She turns 21 at the beginning of that, and by the end of it, she's probably 22. But it's like designed to take place in the continuity of Infinite Frontier. But then like they never really mention Infinite Frontier and vice versa. It's like they don't really discuss each other. So you could totally retcon it to say, oh, that was just its own separate like cool Supergirl story that happened when she turned 21. But either way, like it's really good. This book is everything. It's why I'm so excited for the Teen Titans version. It's because Mark Waid can clearly deliver on this time period and find the joy in it that I think most writers do not understand when they try to do like this like this throwback to like golden era storytelling. So for me, it's a 9.
All right. Right on. For me, Amazo 2.0, woohoo. Great art, fantastic, but it literally just feels like a meaningless Elseworlds issue, like a DC Black Label issue that has no graphic violence or swearing or anything at all. It is just there and it doesn't mean anything. It's lost its appeal for me. I was into this because of its supposed because of its lead into Batman versus Robin, which I personally feel that whole connection didn't even need to happen after reading it. Started off really good for me, and then it's just kind of gotten less and less impressive. Um, Very good on Dan Mora as always, but even if Mark Waid is one of my favorite writers, like of all time, I feel like this ball is getting dropped, and I get it, what it's supposed to be, a flashback to the Silver Age. Uh, let's get away from all the modern stuff. Let's get away from all the woke stuff. But it's boring. It's boring as hell. It's like going back and picking up a 1967 issue of Superman. It's boring. There's just nothing in it.
Well, but he finds like this like casual fun to it. Like it is something. Like,
you
there
could
is
say
quite
that
a
about
lot of
any
fun
of the Silver Age
to this like these like
too.
business. Yes, but like one of the problems with Silver Age comics is not only the art style, but it makes it a little tough. It's also very wordy, and then the stories are often the stories are often like very disconnected, and it just feels outdated, right? And this is like, how can we take those sides of that era and really make them more fun and elevate them? And I do agree with you that the stories lost a lot of its connection to specifically what's going on in the current universe. But I do think World's Finest Teen Titans will help with that, because it will give them a different place to connect to. That will make its story feel more important, as like Teen Titans has like some like things that happen in World's Finest Superman, Batman will affect the Teen Titans version.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, potentially. I mean, I'm definitely gonna be there. I'll definitely read every issue. I always do. This just at 12 issues, I feel like there should be more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? There should be more of a solid groove going on.
A forward momentum.
And, yeah. And for me, it just feels like they're skateboarding down the road, but that fucking road is gravel and it's really bumpy, and it's, I don't know. For me, I get it. It's great to bring that age back, and it can be fun to go back in there. It started off real good, and I don't know. It's not for me anymore. It's not absolutely horrible, but I didn't enjoy it, other than Dan Mora.
Yeah.
Who, side note, drew the best composite Superman in the history of the world.
I need that action figure from McFarlane, damn it.
Fucking right. But I gave World's Finest number 12 a 6.75 as well. This story just was all flat for me.
Fair enough.
So, Catwoman 54 is
yes.
next. Writer Tini Howard. Arts by Nisei Leon. Color by Veronica Gandhi and Lucas Gattoni wrote the letters. So, suspecting that Catwoman is in prison, the Royal Flush infiltrates the prison. Not knowing Selina's Catwoman, the Queen of Hearts threatens Selina and tries to coerce her into revealing who Catwoman is. Despite the Queen of Hearts arriving, the Queens continue their plan to break out. Meanwhile, Eiko, the new Catwoman, finishes busting up the final EXO drug-dealing spot. One of the girls, Maki, stabs herself to appear effectively dead. She wakes up in the prison morgue, where she notes that the prison was never modernized. Has never modernized the door out of the morgue, making it easy to escape. However, as she tries to escape, she stumbles upon Punchline. Maki returns to Selina to let her know about Punchline's arrival, and Selina's girls in the Royal Flush fight in the prison yard, while Selina, who has revealed her identity to Maki, fights Punchline. Selina wins, but offers a deal. The city is about to change, Alexis. You can either be with me or against me, but you'll be richer and happier on my side. I've got strength in numbers, and more than that, they're good. Girls with power, girls that know what to steal. It's not a scheme, it's a new game. If you can play by the rules, you stand to win big. And with the deal in place, the girls plus Punchline escape, leaving the Royal Flush inside the prison. The comic ends with Catwoman showing up at the Crime Lords meeting. This book is... it's been fun. I really like this prison arc. I think it's been a good grounding for the series. That's taken a little bit to re-find its footstep after a pretty solid first couple issues. I think Valmont being gone is honestly one of the best things the series has done, because I think even though Valmont was an interesting character, I think it lost a lot of its like appeal, and I think this is a good fun use of Punchline. I'm curious to see what this looks like. If Punchline and Selina are going to be working together, I think it could be really fun. Obviously, Teenie Howard's one of the better people who understands Punchline after Punchline Gotham game, which was pretty solid and did a good job tying in with the Catwoman storyline. I'm nervous once we get out of this prison that like we haven't given Iko enough time to shine, and like they made a big deal about her being like the new Catwoman, and like that was one of the ways I was like, oh, it's fairly accessible to jump into. It's Selena's in prison. It's not, the lore is not super complicated necessarily, and there's a new Catwoman, so there's a lot of things to learn. But I worry that like Aiko's just not getting any of the page time that she deserves to be fleshed out. But overall, the series has been pretty solid. I'm at like a 7.5, sort of in between good and great. So I really liked it.
Fair enough. For me, the big points of this is Punchline, and she doesn't necessarily agree, but you know, she's like, fine, whatever, I'm gonna do what I want anyways. But I feel like that is the big pull for me here. It's obviously the big push for the next arc is going to be Catwoman putting trust in Punchline, but keeping an eye on her, Punchline running a game, and then the two of them end up beating the shit out of each other. And honestly, that sounds fucking amazing.
It's so fun.
It sounds great. This whole series has been fantastic. When Ram V was writing Catwoman, I absolutely loved that entire story. And when he dropped off and they put this Teenie Howard on there, who I at that point in time had never heard of. I read that first issue and my mind was blown. I was like, wow, whoever this is doing such a great job continuing the narrative that was going on, the story that was going on, but also almost also nearly perfectly mimicking the voices that Ram V had given to the characters. Now under Teenie Howard, we've seen development, we've seen progression, we've seen the character just get fleshed out, to use one of Nathan's words there, just exponentially. The Catwoman book has not let me down once, with the exception of that one issue where Catwoman and Harley, for no reason at all, took a road trip to go fuck with some roller girls. Other than that, every issue from Teenie Howard and Catwoman has been fantastic. It's been like one sprawling story rather than a bunch of few issue arcs, but I mean, it's broken down that way. I guess they feel they need to. Nico Leone is awesome here. Howard is just on top of her game. But for me, rant time, and this is just me, but what's with all this little kid looking art lately? It's fucked up. That cover.
What do you mean?
From the cover from Nakamaya, David Nakamaya, I think his name is. You've got your stereotypical pretty hot looking body of Catwoman sitting there with the face of a 9-year-old behind the mask. If that's supposed to be Iko, she's whoever that character is. It's definitely not Asian and definitely not old enough to be Iko. I looked at it and I said, that girl in that cover looks no older than 14.
It's definitely an anime inspired design, and it's probably the big eyes, because the big eyes make every character look really young, and 90% of anime characters are teenagers.
The only comic book that I enjoyed that in was Future State Gotham.
I mean, I think the other thing that's throwing you off a bit is that especially Asian faces tend to be very soft compared, and I think there's a lot of softness. Like, I think it's almost too soft. But I think that's what's really throwing you off, is the face is very precious. But, like, I don't really agree with this critique. It doesn't bother me at all. Also, I think Iko is kind of young. Like, I don't think she's this, like, fully developed.
She's the leader. She's the leader of the Hasegawa clan, man.
Yeah, but she's still kind of young. If I recall, like, she got, her father died or whatever, and she had passed on. Like, she's not this, like, veteran necessarily this like deep veteran of crime.
No, I
would
always
have put her in
her
like her
at
30s.
yeah, a little bit younger than Selina. That's where I would have put her at. But
Where do you put Selena?
I love probably 35 to 40. Probably, yeah, actually, probably closer
maybe
to
not
40.
The 40s, but like, maybe early 30s. I would put.
The universe is so
hell,
hard to like play.
If Jon Stewart's 29, everything could happen. Like,
I mean, you got to put Bruce at Bruce is what now canonically? What 45?
Well, if Dick is like 26, 27, then you have to assume you have to add like 20 years to that. So like 46, 47. Because there's no way Bruce is adopting Dick at age 18.
That's what I'm saying. And a lot of people
so
are putting
have
that
to be
shit
like
out there. Like, that makes
at
sense.
least. But that's still weird. It's like...
And it's still,
so then in
like,
that case,
where
Bruce
did
has to
his
be, like,
11
45,
years
50.
of traveling the world, learning to be the world's best assassin, where did that go, you know? So, yeah. He's got to be about that age. So, 45-ish.
Probably about 50 now.
Yeah, pretty close. He's feeling his age. And I just always put Catwoman about 5 years younger than him. But that's just me.
I think that's fair.
In any case, Nakayama's cover is the only thing that I did not like about this issue. I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Fair enough. I didn't have much to say about this. I just really enjoyed it. I thought the plot's been really good. All the plot threads between this and Punchline are all starting to come together now. So I'm excited to see where it could end up. I did not see Selina and Punchline working together, even being a possibility. So I'm very excited to see what's going to come from that. This just throwing curveballs at you almost every issue, I think is fantastic so far. 8.75 out of 10 for this issue.
Right on.
All right, now on to our last quick bite for the week. Wonder Woman number 798, brought to us by Josh.
Just like we started out Quick Bites, we're going to close Quick Bites with another one written by Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad. Art from Amanke and Walpin.
Coincidence I gave you both Cloonan and Conrad books.
Yeah, it happens. Colors Tamara Bonvillain, letters Pat Brazeau. Covers from I hope he appreciates the fact that I go the extra mile to make sure I pronounce his name right. Because damn, he was mad on Twitter. Cover from Yannick Paquette and Nathan Fairbairn. So, issue. Ares is there talking to Diana, and everyone else shows up too. We've got Shazam, Siggy, Cheetah, Yara Flor, Etta, Steve, and the Captain. And then so are Hera, Hermes, Apollo, and... Fuck, what's her name? Some other chick. I can't remember what her name is. But Wonder Woman says that she's taking Hera on one by one and gets her ass kicked. Then Shazam shares her powers with her. Well, actually, Mary gives Diana her powers, and that turns Diana fully divine, fully a god. And I gotta say, her Shazam Wonder Woman costume is pretty damn cool. I dig that.
Hell yeah.
Then Diana goes after Hera again, and end of issue concluded in Lazarus Planet Revenge of the Gods #4. The first part, this issue was a two-parter. The first part, I felt like it was over 20 pages of nothing. It could have been a 6-page issue. The art was phenomenal and deserved the full issue, but the story could have been summed up so much more quickly. There should have been more into it. Keep in mind that the last few issues in this story I have enjoyed in this story, including the Revenge of the Gods thing. This was just... I feel like this issue was just them calling it in, and I do hate that. The second part was written by Josie Campbell, Caitlin Yarsky, art by Caitlin Yarsky, colors by Jordi Belair, and lettering by Clayton Cowles. So Mary, former Shazam, is standing alone and Diana shows up. She tells Mary that she's a Marvel. And yeah, a little corny there. And she gives her the shoes of Hermes and a couple of other god items. I know them, I can't remember them right now. And a Wonder Woman T-shirt autographed by Diana because she needs battle armor. And no, I'm not
Obviously.
making that up. That is literally said in the book. So I guess this whole backup exists solely to give Mary a name change, and pretty much no other reason why. The art looks great. The rest is meh. For me, that pretty much sums up the whole issue is meh, other than the art. This was another issue that got 6.5 out of 10 for me. It was just so stretched out.
I think, two things. One, I think it feels more stretched out because there's obviously a backup that kind of just continues where the last one left off. But also, I think one of the things you're missing is, I think part of the goal of the story was this disconnect Mary from Shazam. I think one of the elements of New Champion Shazam really focused on was that Mary really just wants to have a break from all the superpower heroics. Because she, even though she loves her family, but she very much feels like she's at a point in her life where she is grown and she wants to go to college and just be able to focus on herself. And
which would be fine, and I would be behind that, but they didn't do that. They turned around and gave her a bunch of new shit.
Well, that's specifically because there's a big battle going on, and they want her to feel like she had no agency in this fight by giving up her powers, right? And so they were like,
you
"Here's
don't
something."
think that Miss Marvel is going to be sticking around for a while? You think this is just a temporary thing until Revenge of the Gods?
I think it'll be a little bit till she returns. First of all, I think the new Shazam story seems very, very, very focused on Billy alone, especially since Billy now has the entire Rock of Eternity stashed in his heart for some reason.
And he can't share his powers anymore?
Yes, and I think they're trying to refocus back to just Billy himself, which I think is a fine approach to take. And I think this is Mary sort of preparing to close the chapter on this time. Now, it's possible next issue rolls around, Wonder Woman finishes, and she's like, I'm giving you back your powers. But I think part of it is Mary's ready to move on. But they want to be I've given up your powers, now just hide and don't have any agency in this fight. I think it was still important to not, say, oh, by losing your powers, you're no longer worth anything. And you can still be fierce. And so that's part of what these the gauntlets and all that was about. But I don't think she's sticking with them or anything. I think it's just temporary, so that she doesn't feel like she can't do anything in this fight. Generally speaking, with the rest of the issue, I like the issue. It feels a little weird that this is really Revenge of the Lazarus Planet, Revenge of the Gods part issue 5 or whatever, and of 6, and the fact that this is just a tie-in feels really weird. Because I'm gonna have a very hard time reading issue 4 of Revenge of the Planets and being like, oh, yeah, this totally makes sense how we got from point A to point B, given that it picks up right where the last issue left off. But I really enjoyed it, and I think The Revenge of the Gods has been a really solid storyline. I don't know if I exactly need the word Lazarus Planet in it. I feel like that was kind of not the greatest use ever. And obviously, it is coming out of the Lazarus Planet storyline, but I think this would just be better just Revenge of the Gods.
Yeah, only in the loosest
Wonder Woman
of ways.
Shazam parts, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's some of the better work of the Wonder Woman run. I actually think this is a very fun, solid conclusion to the Wonder Woman storyline. I've been it meandered a lot, but I do think this is hitting on all the core elements of what made what were the fun special moments of this run, which were Hippolyta's ascension, was Hera being this terrible person. And I think it's really delivering on all of that and giving us sort of this satisfactory conclusion to this arc that really did begin in Wonder Girl with Hera sort of manipulating, trying to basically create her own pawns. And I think it's a fun conclusion to this last 2 years of Wonder Woman. So I guess for me it's a 9, or I guess probably an 8.5. I'm not a big score person, so somewhere around there.
Fair enough. Yeah, I can agree. It's definitely a decent close for the run we've had. Um, I've got a okay. I know it's a quick way, so honestly, I have a lot of notes about this issue. This one went places, not necessarily bad places, not necessarily good places, but places. Uh, Diana with the power of Shazam. First off, is it a coincidence that she's like the fourth new person to get the power of Shazam in the last 3 years? That seems to be going around a lot. It was just something I noticed. You had Cass in DC's got it, and then I think somebody else got it. It seems like
nobody knows what to do with Shazam. Not even Jeff Johns.
Hey, Mark Wade's taking it over. I've been told it's very good. I trust Mark Wade to do it.
I'll put my faith in Mark Wade right now. It's still cool. Like don't get me wrong. I'm still really excited about that. Like you said, Josh, her costume for it is friggin' badass.
It is pretty cool. She's not gonna keep that though.
No, that's the thing. There's no way that Diana's keeping this power at the end. Where's the power going to go? It has to go back to Mary, unless Mary, like you mentioned, Nathan, when it came to the new champion of Shazam, the whole overarching plot there was Mary just wanted to be a person for a while. If she decides to reject it, and then maybe it goes to Billy again somehow, and he becomes whole. Like, the wizard still technically has his power, even though he was blessed by Hippolyta. I can't imagine that blessing is going to stick around forever, where the main power of Shazam is residing within the wizard, and was Mary up until the point she gave it to Diana. So I could see that power then going to Billy to bring him back to full strength, but then you still got to tie up that loose end with the wizard. I think it is a shame if Mary doesn't get that back, because I was really excited to see Mary take over as the main Shazam character for at least a little longer than what we got.
5 issues of her doing it.
Yeah, realistically, yeah. Bringing the name Mary Marvel back that was a choice. I like it. I think it's cool to show off that history, but it's
I never would have assumed that they'd do it. I wasn't
like
sure where the copyright law lays with that. But
yeah,
I guess technically the only thing they can't do is Captain Marvel.
Well, from what I've been reading into that a lot recently, and like technically they can still use the name Captain Marvel. They just don't, to avoid any drama or confusion. They just decided to, like, okay, fuck it, we're not going to deal with this bullshit. We got enough bullshit to deal with around the time when they were. So they just decided to just call him Shazam and not call him Captain Marvel. So they legally can still use it. They just don't. And because of that, Captain Marvel Jr. and Mary Marvel kind of lost their names too, and then they didn't really have names. So I guess giving her Mary Marvel back is that whole backup, it felt very inspiring, but it also made you did question if it was going to stick around. So it was oddly cool, but at the same time kind of weird. The last note I had to point out, or wanted to point out, Ares. He's been somewhat of a major player this entire story, and he finally reveals himself and then just stands there the whole time. And I thought that was a bit of a letdown, because I really wanted to see some action come from him. Being the god of war in a war, you think he's gonna, like, throw down some shit, but no, he just stood there and watched. And yeah, that was all due to the plot of Diana Harris, like, 1v1 me, scrub, and like, it just felt weird. Yeah, all these gods come together, all these characters come together, army versus army, like, no. 1v1 me, Fox only, Final Destination, no items. Like, what the fuck is this? It's, yeah, I don't know. See, I hope we get to see something from Ares in issue 4 of Revenge of the Gods. I hope, because I think he's a cool character. I don't know, that's just me. I used to be a very, very big mythology buff, and the God of War was always one of the more interesting ones for me.
Oh, for sure.
8.25 out of 10 for the issue, regardless. Sorry, what were you going to say, Josh?
Just my last note on Wonder Woman is that this is a perfect time to get rid of Diana, is to allow her to ascend to godhood. I mean, they did it with Hippolyta, and, then decided basically we don't need her except for like 4 panels afterward. but they could do stuff on the god realm with Diana and have her take off and leave Wonder Woman being to Nubia, Yara Flor, Cassie Sands, Mark Artemis, and Donna Troy. Plus Baya and shit. I'm forgetting all kinds of them, but right now, but there are so many badass Wonder Women right now that Diana, kind of like Clark, feels almost redundant. I'm like, you know what I think it might be? I'm old and I was forced into retirement and I want to take my superheroes with me.
The only thing about that is we know Diana's not gonna ascend, and we know like there's a new #1 coming featuring Diana, so it's definitely not going that direction.
Oh, I know that.
That's a
great idea.
That's the part about it that's very interesting. They make a big deal about that she's finally ascended into godhood. She's finally divine, but you know it's not going to last. And because you know it's not going to last, it feels kind of cheap.
Yeah,
there's
the entirety of
divinity.
Since we broke into the entire Clunan and Conrad run when they took over and started running her through the pantheons of the gods, that's exactly what this has been. It's just been something to read.
Well, like, there's definitely some shifting towards them setting up sort of this new, like, Diana outlawed. Like, what does she look like on the outside of society? You know, like, Tom King really wants to focus on this idea of, like, making the world a better place, not by simply solving crimes, but by sort of, like, fixing, like, underlying issues with society. And, like, the problem is more than just a bad guy. And what is, like, and I think one of the ways that he's doing this is by sort of focusing on Diana being more disconnected from people than ever before. And I think part of it is this choice of, I'm going to pick godhood over humanity, will, like, I think really come to haunt her. And that's part of where I think they're going with it. But I think she's going to lose it. Like, it's not going to last because King's story is going to kind of start in a new place. We're just trying to figure out.
Why do you keep bringing up Tom King?
Because he's writing the next Wonder Woman book.
Story.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, he's writing the next Wonder Woman book.
Oh, no.
Cy Spurrier's doing the next Flash, and Tom King's doing the next Wonder Woman.
I'm sorry, man.
Please no.
It's not Black Label Tom King, so it might be good.
Yeah.
Like
Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
In a web.
Look,
Tom King's been on a good streak. He's fixed a lot of, I think, his struggles. He had a bad set of run, but his last couple books have been really strong. And I'm hoping he's figured out what he needs to do to write a good ongoing. But he'll have to prove it. But I also
do Batcat, Danger Street, Batcat, Rorschach, Supergirl. Nothing he has touched since Omega Men.
Supergirl is one of, I think, the best comics of the decade. Supergirl Women's Mars is one of the best comics of the decade.
Where
you say that,
I can find you a doctor.
They're literally making a movie out of it because it's so
Which
beloved
dumb
and
as
so critically
shit.
acclaimed. He's also obviously
very beloved.
Supergirl is drunk.
Strange
gets
Adventures
into
was
fighting.
so good.
It was horrible. Strange Adventures was not good.
No, but that's but
Strange
like the
Adventures
Supergirl
ended
gets
in
drunk
nothing.
and gets duped into fighting somebody. It's like the basic premise, but then it like spends not a lot of its time on that. Like that's like just the first issue. Most of its focus is on the nuances of like genocide and like the aftermath of war crimes and how does someone who has it's like nuanced and emotional.
Because it was not emotional.
Powerful.
It was all a bunch of trickery. It was all a bunch of trickery that ended.
Unemotional person, but
it's I'm not emotional. I cry reading Batman sometimes. There's
images. There's images and moments in that comic that are so powerful that I like think of them to this day as like some of the most emotional moments I've ever had reading a comic. There's a moment.
You thought the tower was emotional, Nathan.
Okay.
You thought the tower was emotional.
I
thought it was good. There's a difference.
Can I interject? Nathan, as much as I agree with you that I've enjoyed a lot of Tom King's Black Label books, apart from Rorschach, that doesn't really factor in this situation because this isn't a Black Label book, right? It's not going to be a 12-issue mini with a beginning and an end clear cut. So what we need to focus on, what we need to compare to is his Batman. And I am one that says Grayson was quite good. Yeah. Did he start that one? I always forget where he was.
Yeah,
he was the one that started it, right?
I thought the whole Grayson idea was dumb, though.
That is way better than Rick Grayson.
Oh, I mean, if you're going to compare it to that, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you're going to compare it to that,
Grayson is actually, as a spy, it was really cool. Okay, with Batman, though,
would be better than that.
With Batman, though, I'm a firm believer that the first half of that run was really good up until he got to the wedding. And then it
up until about issue 55, Dick gets shot in the head, but it was still okay. It was a big moment. It was just the way the aftermath was managed so terribly with Rick Grayson and stuff. But that wasn't his idea. That was DC's idea.
Exactly.
That was Dan Didio's idea.
The whole thing, well, of course, it was Dan Didio's idea. He's a sidekick.
The real problem with that run is Nightmares was like a run ending. Nightmares was run ending bad. That was the problem. Yeah, well,
that's the thing about the ending, because I do remember, and I couldn't tell you when or where I read it, but I do remember when we were in the second half of his run, it was said that he had plans up to issue 100 or into issue 100, but then his run ended 85 or 87. It ended
because it sucked prematurely. So bad.
But not necessarily.
That's why it ended
it's because
something happened, and it really cut it short.
It's because
people complaining about
they wanted to bring Tinian in.
Why did they want to bring Tynan in? They wanted to bring Tynan in because King was fucking up.
No, but they wanted to set up the Infinite Frontier Batman stuff.
Which is,
so I really hope. This is not the same thing that happens.
We had to go through.
Look, regardless. Moving on. I want to spend 500 minutes talking about conversations that have been had on 2 billion podcasts.
We're at 2 hours. We gotta get to that.
But all I'll say is this: I think Tom King can write a good ongoing. It's been a while. I guarantee you, he's learned a lot, and I have faith that he can do a good job this time around and learn from Batman, because after Heroes in Crisis his books got a lot better. You might not like his style of writing, but that's
what books got better.
Supergirl, Woman Tomorrow,
if you leave out Supergirl because you love
Strange Adventures,
Strange Adventures ended in what? Do you even know what happened in Strange Adventures? Mr. Miracle was a guide to depression. Yeah, but just because you finished it doesn't mean you can tell me what the fuck happened. It was just a bunch of gobbledygook smashed together.
And
the shit in issue 3 didn't match the shit in issue 7.
Look, okay, I just,
you know what? Tom King's writing style is I put out an issue and then I look at Twitter and I see how they react it, and then the next issue I conform to that.
If that was true, Heroes in Crisis wouldn't have ended the way it did.
Well, we all know Heroes in Crisis had a completely different plan and then got corporately rewritten to be a murder mystery. But regardless, what I'm hearing from you, Josh, is that you dislike Tom King so much that you read every book as if it's going to be horrible, and then you don't have a great experience when you read Tom King. And then,
I hate Joshua Williamson. I can't stand Joshua Williamson. I haven't enjoyed Joshua Williamson as a writer in 9 years. I don't like Joshua Williams' writing style, but I will tell you that I loved JLO because I'm not just prejudiced against the writer. I'm prejudiced against shitty storytelling.
But Joshua Williamson's writing style is more in line with most other comics writers, whereas Tom King has his very own unique sense of what a comic is. And
Joshua Williamson went to the school of never ending a comic book. That's what Joshua Williamson went for. He's absolutely it. He doesn't know how to come to a conclusion. He doesn't know how to wrap up or tie in all the loose strings. He's spread. Have you ever read his 5-year run on Flash?
Robin was a very cohesive 18-year. Okay, so you're salty about one comic story that was pretty good for a while and eventually fell out
because
because it was too long.
comic story. Plus, Robin was great for its first 5 or 6 issues. The rest of it fucking fell apart.
It was great for the entire 18-issue run. It was so good. We literally just praised how good it was earlier this episode. Did you change your mind on it or something? No, I didn't. We literally just praised it praised it earlier.
No. You guys were praising it. I did not.
Look, let's move on. This isn't productive. I don't agree with you on this at all. It's baffling. And just wrong. But okay. Moving on. What's left next?
Superboy? Hang on. I feel like I'm the host of a daytime talk show right now. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. There'll be probably more debating to come. Stay tuned. And we're back. Thank you for sticking with Not a Robot. It's okay, we're good now. We're good now. We're getting into our spotlight section for the week, and we're starting off with, I guess not really starting off, it's the only book in our spotlight section for the week, Superboy, The Man of Tomorrow, #1. And I gotta say, this has been a long time coming. I've been waiting a long time for this. I am very happy it's here. Let's see how it goes. Also, that being said, I'm very on the fence if I want to see another round robin tournament. But we'll see.
I don't think it's happening. The other two would have already started by now. The fact that it hasn't happened yet seems to confirm it's not happening. It was a whole March Madness thing, so the fact that it hasn't happened, I think it's canceled. I think they're not doing it again.
I hope so.
They
just tease me with great books.
they have a good number of books they have to publish from the last 2 round robins, because there's a lot of good ideas there. All right, so this issue is written by Kenny Porter with art from Jahoy Lindsay and letters from Lucas Gattoni. And a very nice cover from Jahoy Lindsay as well. So we start off with Connor being Superboy with coffee in downtown Metropolis. There is some machinations going on from Dr. Polaris throwing cars around as he tries to rob a bank and get away with it. But, idiot, you're in Metropolis. Of course, some super fam are going to show up. It just so happened Connor was first as he begins to save some civilians, if my tongue would work. Kara and John step in to help out and take off the car that he was about to catch. And then he goes to deal with some power lines, but Kara jumps in and then deal with something else. Then John jumps in, and then before he knows it, Clark is taking care of Dr. Polaris, and now he's got nothing to do. The coffees he had have spilled, except only his is the one that fell on the ground, where the other two, for Jonathan and Martha Kent, are still standing. That's a sad day so far for Connor, but he's still going strong. He flies off while the super family asks if he needs any help or if he's okay, and he says, "Nah, I'm good, I'll see you later." Flies off to the Kent farm, gives the coffee to Ma and Pa Kent, where they give him a pep talk and explain some stuff about Clark when he was a kid, that sometimes you just gotta find your bigger role in the world, and maybe you don't have the spot you need where you currently are, you just gotta go find your spot. So that gives him the idea to fly off to the Fortress of Solitude, where he begins to talk to Kellex about maybe there's someplace else in the world he can go. Yet all the danger is being covered by all the metahumans and heroes in the world already. He just doesn't have a spot to go to be a hero himself. That's what happens when you have like 300,000 metahumans on your planet. It's just going to get covered very easily. So he thinks maybe somewhere in the universe there's something he can do, and Kellex searches for some galactic signals of distress and finds a planet where some signals are at their strongest, and there is a planet which does not have a name as of yet, at least according to Kellex's files, but there are some Dominator warships entering the atmosphere. Connor decides maybe that's a good place to go and be a superhero, so he takes teleporter, a recent teleportation device from a Kund bounty hunter, and whisks himself away to that planet, which we now find out is named Planet Dragoi, where all the inhabitants are fleeing from terror. Excuse me. And Connor makes quick work of the invading ships, flying through each one and having them crash land onto the planet. But is then quickly attacked by some superpowered characters of their some superpowered fighters of the enemy team's own. And these characters all look very familiar to other cosmic characters you may have seen in recent past, except these are genetically modified versions. You'll see, wow, now I'm forgetting their names. A character from Despero's species, Volk, the Green Lantern, the guy with the volcano head, character from his species, and Raimi Hall, I believe was her name, was a Green Lantern. You'll see a character from her species, all genetically modified to have different either tech or limbs or abilities attached to their bodies. So together they all attack Connor, but he is quite good and quite adept at being a hero as it is, and makes quick work of the defense, takes them out one at a time, but is eventually overpowered in a group assault. And when he notices some of the civilians being attacked, he goes in to defend, but turns out that is the butterfly wasp looking character. These characters are not named yet. Is actually an illusion due to her mind-based powers, and captures Connor, reading his mind a little bit and seeing what they could possibly do to him. But a Dominator shows up and realizes that he is a clone. It just so happens that they are dealing in clone technology, and they want to do as much as they can to study him. So the 3 mutant soldiers do a bit more to just weaken him so he passes out, but it's not enough. Connor is still standing strong. But with that, though, the Dominator decides maybe they need some backup and calls in the rest of the army. So Connor does take on as much of the army as he can. There's hundreds of genetically modified soldiers from all over the galaxy, but it's proving too much for him. Then, just before he's about to pass out from the waving attack, the enemy army is being decimated by some unknown assailants. And as they finish off, you see a trio of characters named the Cosmeteers have made quick work of the enemy team and are now setting their sights on Connor. Damn, this was loads of fun. I want to point out right away, this is yet another book that's highly Dragon Ball inspired in places. Like if you guys know Dragon Ball, planets, Dragoi, a lot of the scenery is just planet Namek. That's all. It's Namek, down to the trees and the grass. It's carbon copy. So it's the artist is very much a fan. And it's it was really cool to see. Even a lot of the combat sequences were very like Connor just moving his head to dodge a punch. Like it's very Dragon Ball inspired. I love seeing that, being a Dragon Ball fan myself. Connor is such a great character. I'm happy he is getting his chance to shine here, and shine he is. And also, it's a cosmic-based book, which I'm even more happy about because I've been waiting for more cosmic-based stories. And you're seeing all these different alien species. The art's quite good. The story is exciting. I cannot wait to see where they take Connor with this. I gave this a 9.25 out of 10. I'm loving this first issue. I wish this wasn't ongoing already. Yeah.
It actually, I mean, it is a pretty interesting setup. Taking Connor, having him go up against all those people, and now who the fuck are the Cosmeteers? Who, just side note, sounds like they tapped into James Tynan for that name. But it was good. It was good art. I probably would have went with a different choice of artist for this particular book, but it's good art. There were a few dialogue flubs, but other than that, man, beyond that, it's a really good issue. I had a good time with it. And like Rob said, it's always good to see Connor at the forefront of a story. Let's hope this story ends up being a good one. It is a setup, and I do tend to grade those a little bit lower because I don't have any promise yet. But 7.5 out of 10 for this one.
And even the Cosmeteers, I forgot to point out, they are also, at least some of them are notable species that we've seen before. There's one that looks to be a speedster. It looks to be a Zudarian, which is the race that Trillatru, Tomar Ray, and Tomar 2 are part of. There it looks to be who might be the leader, potentially is the Daxamites. And the last one looks familiar, but I can't quite place the alien race. But it's cool to see some of the familiar species here. Sorry, as you were.
Oh, I think that's it, my man.
I thought it was decent. I think one of the things that they brought up was sort of that Connor has had like nothing in the last 2 years, and even the only book he seemed like he was in initially turned out not to be him. So in Suicide Squad. So it's nice to see Connor getting some focus. Time-wise, I think the timeline of the book is a little caught me off guard, that it takes place essentially before Action Comics 1051. And I'm curious to see what like the self-discovery looks like. And I liked the characterization of him just trying to find his way. Is it my favorite? I think it's a little too focused around fight scenes for my liking. But I thought it was a fun first issue. I like the twist at the end with the this new group of people, and I'm always down for when they explore more sides of the cosmic scope of the DCU. So overall, I would give it probably a 7. Nothing particularly special, but I think it has some solid foundations to work with.
Right on. I agree. Like, obviously I gave it a lot more of a gushing review, but I definitely agree. Like, there's definitely some stuff here to be excited about, and there's something there that potentially could grow and be fairly big, not just to Connor, but maybe to the DC universe as a whole. At least for the cosmic side, because I'm a big purveyor that they need a cosmic side going on. Yeah,
speaking
Josh,
of the cosmic side.
Yeah, so that concludes our spotlight. Now we're gonna close that spotlight.
Whoa! That's not everything. Somebody didn't flip all the pages. We have Green Lantern light at the end of Forever.
Yeah, I did actually. I looked at that and then I forgot all about it again. I'm not too happy about this. I literally do not remember what was in this book. I am not too happy about the fact that they're doing this, because they're just teasing us now. So there seems to be, at the end of each issue, they're going to give you a brief preview of the finalists from that year's round robin tournaments. And this issue, they show Green Lantern the light at the end of Forever, and it looks so freaking good. I'm so upset. And next issue, you're going to get a look at Hawkman and Hawkwoman, the Changeling, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Honestly, I'm not going to get into the plot.
My favorite book of the lineup.
Hawkman and Hawkwoman are great characters. The fact that this is titled The Changeling makes me curious as hell. Like, is this going to involve a
It was one of my favorite pitches.
Beast Boy kind of person? I can't remember.
It's about their kid, if I remember right?
Yes, they had a kid, but the kid was like almost like the vibe was supposed to be like cute, but also kind of a haunted doll and secret. And there was like this darker side to this kid. The pitch was so good. I was so excited for this book. It just never came.
Yeah, and that's what I'm not happy about. I'll be honest, I'm not going to get into the plot of the quote unquote backup, because you're just getting like the first 5-6 pages, and that's all you're ever going to get.
We were initially only ever supposed to get a cover, so I'm very happy we got what we got in a pitch. I mean, so I'm just thankful
you can
to get
see
more.
Some of it. But then you're never going to get a resolution to that story. You're never going to get any more. Just like, why are you doing this? You're torturing
I don't care.
us.
I just wanted to see this book for forever. After this book, I do not care about any of the rest. I just really want to see Hawkgirl and Hawkling. But for the record, the reason why they're doing this is initially they were intending to do a single book that would be like the 8 pages of each of the finalists or whatever. And I think then it just never came out. And everyone was like, well, what's going on with this book?
Oh, yeah.
And apparently they decided, let's just roll it into Superboy Man of Tomorrow. Which I think is like
so it'd be like an anthology.
That's or just like
actually not a bad idea. Round robin anthology. Get them all published. I love this idea.
Only if we go all the way back to the first year.
Yes. I mean, there were some.
I need to.
I looked back at the.
I need to read Animal Man. I need to read JLQ.
Some questionable choices, but some good ones. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Suicide Squad 7, I'm still kind of on the fence about. It seemed interesting enough, but there's others that are
All
a
the
lot
evil
more interesting
Batman
sounding.
ones, I think there were 2 or 3. I'm past. Fuck that. I'm good.
There was, God, what was it called? Like a multiversal dark team led by Vampire Batman. That looked interesting.
We've had Vampire Batman a buttload of times. It would have to be some special to set it apart.
Well, it was the Red Rain Batman specifically. What the hell's going on outside? Anyway, so that was our spotlight section. We're shutting it off for the night. Commissioner Gordon's putting the tarp over it. And we're going to dive into Gotham City. Not specifically Gotham City. We're going to fly over to Metropolis and open up Superman number 3. And my issue is actually on the back page right now. 1 second. So this is brought to us by Joshua Williamson, writing, with art and cover from Jamal Campbell, the ever glorious, and letters from Ariana Maher. And we continue where we left off. The parasites are attacking Metropolis in full force and have taken over Superman's body because they are quite literally parasites, infecting the bloodstream and the body and turning you into a parasite yourself. Kind of on the nose there, but I'm about it right now. So Superman is slowly turning into a parasite, breaks into Lex Luthor's cell to get help. He has just enough of his mind intact to basically string together enough words to tell Luthor to fix him. And he gets Luthor. And oh my God, why am I blanking on her name right now? Livewire, thank you. No, Livewire, okay. Out of prison because he has a plan to deal with the parasite invasion. The Super Family are doing what they can, keeping them confined to Metropolis, but it's only a matter of time that they will get out. So they need to work quickly, using Livewire as technically bait for the actual parasite Rudy Jones to absorb her power. They shine the light on the top of the Supercorp tower to maximum brightness, using Livewire as the battery, and Superman in a special protective suit that we'll find out why in just a moment. The idea here is that all the parasites, including the ones infecting the people of Metropolis, will be so drawn to the power at the top of Supercorp Tower that they will just leave everything else behind and run to it because they are all so hungry. And surprise, surprise, it actually does just that. All the little bits of parasites are leaving the people of Metropolis, most importantly Superman, who then puts on a protective bubble over his head, which is what the suit is designed for, and protects him from anything entering his body, thus therein. Rudy Jones sees it and is climbing over all the other parasites, trying to get to the power first, as Clark finds him and tries to talk him down, and maybe they can help each other. But Parasite, being Parasite, tries to suck his energy, but it's not enough. The suit is doing what it can to protect Clark, so there's no way Parasite is going to get the option to do anything he wants to do. Other parasites are trying to attack, but then Rudy just beats them down and tries to take all the power from himself, because that's what parasites do. Eventually, Clark gives him the idea that maybe you just need to absorb all the power, absorb all the other parasites, because they've absorbed a lot of the power already, and if you take them in with the power they've absorbed, maybe they'll satiate your hunger. So he does all that in a very gruesome symbiotic-like fashion, to the point that he becomes some grotesque monster, something out of a horror manga. I was going to actually quote an author's name, but I can't remember the author's name right now. I'll get to it later. It's very reminiscent of his work. Yeah. Livewire's understandably grossed out, but then Lex just gives him a sedative and he falls asleep. New day dawns on Metropolis. Everyone is back to normal, and Clark finds Lois and Jimmy in the Daily Planet offices, perfectly safe and sound. Back at the Kent apartment, I guess you could say, they all just talk about what's going to happen next, and how Lex is basically giving Clark a deal he kind of has to take. But Lois, understandably, is questioning everything, being the ace reporter that she is. Comes up with all the different scenarios of what Lex's plan could be, but basically they both decide that he just has to go with it and see what's going to happen. So he does just that. Superman goes to Lex's cell, where he gracefully and willingly returns to, and says, I'm going to trust you for now. I've decided to not give up on you. Maybe we can save this world together. And offers him a signal watch, oddly enough. Then he flies to Supercorp Tower, finds Mercy Graves, and says, we've got a lot of work to do. And then in a brief epilogue, we see the cabal of scientists, that's just the name I'm giving them, it's not the name they've been given, have
Sentinels
decided
of science.
No, that's what
it's
no,
Society
Sentinels
of
of Magicking.
They
do have a
like
name,
the
eh?
Society of Evil Scientists
Evil
or something like
Scientists.
that. Of Mad Scientists or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah. Josh being his little Sentinels of Magic thing. Not everything's a Sentinel, man. Just like not everything is a Cabal.
Most things are. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so they've decided that their experiments with Parasite is a failure, but they are now moving on to their next test subject, which turns out to be Silver Banshee, to be continued next issue. I really liked it, so I buried that late really fucking fast. First note, I remember now where I've heard Supercorp before. It has been bugging me the last 3 issues because I know that word sounded very familiar, and like reading this issue for some reason it clicked.
The ship name?
The ship for Lena and Kara in Supergirl was called Supercorp, dubbed by the fans, and I could not look at this office the same way again. Knowing it's Clark and Lex working together, it's gonna be weird now. That's gonna be something. Anyway, so this arc is done, and honestly, for me, I think it ended well. I can officially say at this point that I think it's a good book. Bravo, Mr. Williamson, because that's my big thing with Williamson. He doesn't end stories well, and I think this one ended fairly well. The direction, I think, is wholly interesting. You're getting a mini tour so far of existing Superman villains, some characters we haven't seen in a long time. Like, when's the last time we saw Parasite? And an actually compelling and interesting story.
What? You saw him 3 years ago in the Green Arrow number 47, I think. It was the end of that Green Arrow run, where he was like, it was part of the reboot. They had just gotten a new prison inside of the Justice League building, the Hall of the Justice League. There was like a prison underneath, and Parasite had broken out of that.
Damn, man, you're Librarian 2.0. That's impressive. I love that
comic.
run,
but
I don't remember.
I don't remember
that's
probably like 42 or something. Yeah.
Holy shit! I gotta go back and I really enjoyed that run on Green Arrow. I gotta go back and read that. Where was I? Yeah, I am worried though about this. What did you call it? I was gonna say Brandon automatically. Nathan, the secret society of
evil scientists.
Evil scientists.
Think what's interesting is the goal.
I almost want to say that like Nathan, that got mentioned in the book, didn't it?
Issue 2.
What?
Yeah.
Issue 2. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, the Green Arrow
Dr. Graft and the name of the scientist. They got a little more detailed in issue 2. I know because I went back, because CBR has been doing this really cool series. I don't know where the 3rd issue is. I'm a little confused. But called Spoilers of Steel, where basically after every issue they're going and they're just talking with Joshua Williamson about the issue. Let's talk about the spoilers now that we can for that issue. So I went back and reviewed that. We got a little more information about Dr. Graff and stuff. So it felt, after rereading that, I felt a little less, they're teasing the new villains. Like, no, they already teased the villain. We just, forgot about that. What's interesting is they're supposed to be, this society is supposed to be, like, Lex's villains. So the idea is, like, Superman's being forced to fight Lex's villains rather than Superman's villains directly. And this is more like the Lex's villains trying to get at Lex through villains
Yeah.
of Superman's. But I just think it's a really
which is a very
approach.
interesting direction. The only thing I'm worried about with this is where that could end. Like, they had this story going on right now that they're going after Lex, Superman's getting in the way, and they're using various Superman villains as experiments to attack Lex or do whatever their plan is. But where does that end? You know, what's the end game there? That's what I'm worried about. That's where I think that ending could falter. Right, but that's way down the line. Who knows when that'll happen? So I'm always cautiously optimistic about stuff like this. So as much as that's a question on my mind, I'm gonna put that on the back burner for now and enjoy what I've got in front of me. So a 9 out of 10 for this issue.
Yeah, I think one of the things that works so well for me is the art is spectacular. I feel like it fits the right vibes for like this sort of like hybrid. Like in some ways it feels a bit like a Silver Age Superman, but like with like this, but like in modern times. And I just think the art is so phenomenal. Who did the art again?
Jamal Campbell.
Yeah, Jamal Campbell is just the GOAT. He's one of the GOATs of just comics art in general. And this issue continues that trend. He's just special. And I think he does so much heavy lifting, but I also think the writing's been really, really solid. I think there's an interesting moment where Superman is like, "Oh, I've been in the bathroom this whole time. What happened?" Where I'm like, "Really? Come on. Over the last like 3 hours, you've just been stuck in the bathroom." But my vibe I kind of get is that he's trying to tease to Jimmy, like, "Hey, look, I'm Superman. I just can't tell you because if I tell you, you're gonna die." Because remember that whole thing? Where like if he reveals that
I wasn't thrilled about that part, but the rest of it was okay.
I like the results of it. The mechanics of it are trash, but I'm okay with it.
That's exactly like that just prevents any character from finding out his identity for the foreseeable future, and that's not fair to any other.
What I do like about it, what I do like about it is that, like, first of all, we've tried this a couple times. It never really works. So Superman's more human than he is Superman. And when Superman reveals himself to be Superman, he becomes more Superman than he is Clark.
I think that's not to everybody, but secondly, a few choice people like Jimmy, I think it would be okay.
And then secondly, I like it for John especially. I like that he can be fully himself without all this baggage. The one thing that's annoying is that Jay doesn't get to have all that baggage. Like, that's the weirdest part of that dynamic. That like Jay has to be secret, but John doesn't. Is bizarre, but whatever. Otherwise, I really like this issue. I really like where they're going with it. This is one of the examples of where I think Joshua Williamson's gotten a lot better as a writer. He's gotten better and better at writing these like solo stories. I think he's really starting to reach some of the peak of his game. I think, while I agree that his Flash was rough, you have to remember at this point, his Flash started literally 7 years ago. So I think he's grown a lot in that time, and this has been really good so far. It's a 9.5 for me. I think it's
I cannot agree with you guys more about Jamal Campbell. This dude just slays the art. I mean, he smacks it, he stabs it, he kills it, then he smacks it again, wakes it back up, and kills it one more time. He is just murdering this art, and I fucking love it. If I was able to talk to him and he looked at me and said that he uses pencils and inks and not a computer, I would probably defecate immediately. This art is just off the chain, and I will never be able to say enough about it. Enough good things about it. As far as the book itself, I think it's still an interesting premise, but it feels lackluster to me. It's probably because, like Nathan said, it does have that Silver Age feel. Just like one of your regular run-of-the-mill, not that important Superman stories. Again, interesting premise. So I think really my only problem here is that the pace seems to need to change. Or, excuse me, that the pace seems to change. I'm still not a fan of the entire Supercorp idea. And we see that it's just a bunch of bullshit by the end of this issue anyway. Yeah. But
what are you talking about?
We find out that Lex is full of shit by the end of the issue.
I mean, that's expected.
I don't recall this at all.
I mean, if you're talking about what Clark and Lois were talking about, that was their own speculation.
Yeah, they don't know if they can trust Lex, but Lex is just revealed that
Hang on, I think I know what you're talking about. Let me pull it.
I mean,
up.
the vibe at the very end of it. That
how angry will Superman be when he learns that Lex is lying to him about us?
Yeah, it was that's the Lex's villains. It was on the last.
Oh no, it's just that Lex. My guess is it's more that Lex is hiding information about what the intent of the Society of Supervillains.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think it's Lex Luthor. He most likely is full of shit anyway.
Even when Lex is quote unquote on the good or better side of Superman, he still always has his own agenda. I mean, Rebirth Lex very much has his own agenda, and this is just him having his own agenda. Like I don't really think there's much substance to that. He's full of shit, but rather he has more than one goal, and that he can be both on Superman's side at the moment and still be withholding / creating alternative information.
Yeah, I don't buy that at all. I think it's Lex being Lex, and it's all for him.
For me on that side, it's the sudden, and I say very, very sudden change where not that long ago he was trying to hatch some master evil plan to take over the world again. He tried to take over the multiverse, but then
exactly
with Gamora Corps and all that, and then all of a sudden he's just decided to help Superman instead of fight him. It's very sudden, very way too sudden for my taste. That's exactly it. It's very suspicious, but that's what I mean.
So is Superman very suspicious of Lex? Do you expect Lex to be like, oh yes, I'm suddenly good, and Superman to be like, I fully believe Lex now? No, he's part of the dynamic because it's what is Lex up to, right? Like that is the question.
But he's starting to buy into it because he gives Lex a signal watch.
The way that this is reluctantly. Very reluctantly. He says does say he's giving him a shot. I've decided. Yeah. He's trusting him for now, but he's still very, very, very cautious because, like we've said, it's Lex Luthor.
Yeah, and that's Superman. Superman is a naturally cautious person. Yeah. He will always forgive you.
Given the typical style in which Joshua Williamson writes, the fact that this is going on pause for a while and then picking back up after the event, I'd almost bet money that we're not going to get a real conclusion.
What? We're pausing it for an event he's writing, and in the meantime, there will be a 2-issue miniseries that is written by Joshua Williamson.
Continuing the story. Dark Crisis and Infinite Frontier.
Yeah, but Robin made it 16, 17 issues before they swapped writers, and he made 17 issues, and the ending was decent, and then it moved straight to Wade. Yeah, he finished Robin. So, and I thought the ending was pretty good. So. I mean, it went straight into Batman vs. Robin, but I trust him. It's early. Besides, comics are typically about the journey. If we only cared about the ending, then no one would have ever even started Jason Aaron's Avengers run, which we just talked about the ending earlier today. So,
I totally get that. But at the end of every journey I take, there needs to be an end. There's not just slip into another journey. Yeah, we will, and
the journey.
Right now, like I said,
moving on.
It's a really interesting premise. Animosity aside, I do feel like this does need to step it up a little bit. Even if I don't like the changes, I am not that's not my Superman kind of dude. I want focus. I want things that matter.
I just think it's a bit of back to the basic Superman. I'm fine with some back to the basic stories. In order to enjoy the really big stories, you need some smaller stakes.
I can't talk tonight. I need water. That's exactly how I feel. It is a back to basic Superman, which I very much appreciate.
That we also get in World's Finest. But, regardless, it is way too early to tell if this will be... It's way too early to tell if this is going to end up being good or not. But this issue on its own Jamal Campbell did help out a whole bunch on this, but I gave it a 7.25 out of 10.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Respectable score. Okay.
Moving on to Nightwing.
Yes.
So the Titans have arrived. So art written by Tom Taylor, art by Travis Moore, inker Julio Ferreira, and then there's a backup written by C.S. Pecat, with pencils by Eduardo Panzisca, and I couldn't figure out the colorist. So the Titans have arrived in Hell. While Neron and Blaze fight, Neron wins, announces he's traveling to Earth to find the girl Olivia. Olivia arrives in Themyscira while the Titans break into Neron's tower to find Olivia's contract. Neron's forces, meanwhile, sneak into Themyscira and fight Donna and Starfire. There's a great moment where Olivia punches Supergirl or Wonder Woman's hand, and then there's Wonder Woman grabs it, and there's like a smile that twists. It's like, oh, something's gone wrong. Meanwhile, there is a loophole in Olivia's contract as Dick discovers if Dick takes in Olivia as a foster child, then she can't be Neron's because she quote unquote has a living guardian. Desperate to get Olivia, Neron then offers Dick superpowers in a combination of Superman's and the Speed Force. The costume is incredible. The premise is whatever. And then in the backup, Dick and John realize that the person who cut the rope was the boy himself, who tried to injure himself so he didn't have to continue being in the circus. Dick and John reflect on Dick's feelings about his time on the surface before realizing that the bomb was done by someone else as the mystery continues. Fun issue. It doesn't feel like Nightwing at all, and I know it's like we talked about earlier being sort of a backdoor pilot, but like it's okay. I'm ready for Nightwing to get back to like Nightwing things. I feel like one of the struggles of this run, it's been a little too fan servicey, and then this setup I feel like is a lot of it feels very unnecessary. And it's good. It's so I would say it's probably a 7. I'm looking forward to Nightwing getting back to what I think it does better, but I generally enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did not have much in the way of notes of this myself. I thought it was interesting, but it does feel like a penultimate chapter. I haven't looked up if it actually is the penultimate chapter of the arc, but it does have that feeling. So it's not
would
amazing.
Probably be. It's probably is because Titans like comes out in June. So it would be this issue, and then the week 2 or 3 weeks after would be Titans. Yeah. So it must be that 104 is the end.
Yeah. So it's not amazing. It's still interesting enough, and seems to progress the plot, but it's not amazing. So it's solid. It's okay. 8.5 out of 10.
8.5 for it's okay. You guys crack me up.
Yeah.
Surprise, I don't quite. Surprise, I don't quite agree with Nathan about Nightwing because I don't want to see him go back to. I love Nightwing. Nightwing's awesome. I love everything that has been Nightwing, with the exception of Disco Wing. But Nightwing's a fucking fantastic character, but he has been set up to have the entire weight of the DC universe put on his shoulders. So going back to being normal Nightwing isn't exactly ideal at this time. I think once he settles into his grooves, we can get back to, the Nightwing that we are all familiar with.
I just want the run to continue in the direction the run has been continuing, rather than this, it's basically Titans, but we're just not calling it Titans story arc.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I want the Titans story arc to just be Titans, and I don't like this in between. I think it's starting to wear out its welcome.
Backdoor pilot thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I that's what I'm saying. Completely. I just want Nightwing's story to get back to Nightwing's story.
Yeah.
If it's Titans, put it in Titans. I gotcha, because I feel that way about several books as well. So the books themselves, I'm going to start with the backup. The best section that they have yet to make for the backup.
Yep.
Slightly, and I do mean slightly, emotional, but that's more than we typically get in books these days. The story progression, the dialogue, it's back to where it should be, and the art is simply on point. If I was grading them separately, the backup would get an 8 out of 10. The first one, all right, let me just read a couple of things that happened in the book, and then I'll share my opinion on it. Nightwing asks Raven why they're getting psychic blinkers, And that's supposed to be blinders, I'm assuming, unless like there's like this
I thought it did
picture and
blinders.
it had to have been blinders because unless they're seeing like this psychic turn signal in their head every time they go left. So there's that.
The reason for that was because she worried that Dick would feel this need to save people in hell. And the reality is once you're in hell, you can't really be saved. And so it's like, Dick, I need you to just focus on the task at hand. So I'm going to blind you so you can't see anybody but me for just a little bit until we get to the part of hell where people aren't being tortured in the way that makes you think you can save them.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I'm all in agreement with you there. It was just the blinkers versus blinders thing there. There's a record-keeping computer in Neron's castle in hell. I did not realize that they got Wi-Fi down there. What do you think he looks up on Pornhub? Never mind, don't answer that.
Yeah, could just be like a disconnected computer, just files and whatnot.
Weird.
Yeah, I thought it was funny how like it's filled with like all these like terrible, like everything terrible about the internet was sort of the idea. And then there's like 2 billion icons on it, like an icon per person in hell.
That is Cyborg's version of hell, is too many desktop icons. I can kind of relate to that. The Lord of Hell won't attack Themyscira because it would be bad for him politically. I guess hell is in the UN now.
That's because of the gods.
Themyscirans have connections to the underworld, and then the gods, right? Hades. And then also like there's also like serious soldiers there, so it's not like easy to just like extract a person. Like
correct me if I'm wrong, but Hell and Hades in DC are 2 different places, are they not? I'm almost positive.
Well, that's the idea here. If Neron attacks Themyscira, then the ruler of those other dimensions would be like, "What the fuck, man? You're stepping on my territory. We gotta."
Well, then also like by stepping onto Themyscira as a man, especially she would break a lot of rules, and then also the Themyscirans would be much more likely to retaliate if you kidnap someone on their soil. And the last thing you want is like the Themyscirans, like Wonder Woman, and like these hundreds of like warrior ladies going after you, trying to fight you to get back this person. Like it's like too difficult to essentially just give them up.
Yeah, nobody needs the entire fighting force of Themyscira to attack you.
I don't.
That's just a bad idea.
That's why I shit on Clunan and Conrad and not on Diana directly. I don't need to get fucked up. And then finally, the temptation of Super Winged. I don't hate the costume, but I don't think it's great. And obviously, we all know that. That's what I say. I don't hate it. I just don't think it's all that great. And I mean, we do know that within the few first pages of the next issue, Dick's gonna be like, "Dude, fuck you." But I mean, as far as the story goes, those are the comments. The art is great as per the usual. The rest of it felt like it was just kind of filled up with silly jokes, and I do love Taylor's joke inclusion. And every issue he's had something fucking great, whether or not it was bringing up his Twitter feud with holy shit, she wrote Batgirl, she wrote she's got red hair and glasses.
Oh, you're talking about Gail Simone?
Gail Simone. I don't know how the hell I forgot her name. Bringing that into it, having Nightwing wear one of those T-shirts where Batman is slapping Robin. You know, those kind of jokes are fucking great. But this whole issue felt like that's kind of all it was. Just jokes and silliness. The art, like I said, is fantastic. The rest just kind of let me down. I gave the first part, if grading separately, a 6.5. So altogether, Nightwing got a 7 out of 10 for me.
Fair enough.
And given that we just hit the 3-hour mark, should I speed on through to the Flash?
I think you should. Go for
Run,
it.
Barry, run. Flash number 797, written by Jeremy Adams, art by Serge Acuna, Tom Daranek, colors Matt Herms and Peter Pentazis, covered by Taurine Clark, letters David Sharp. The story dips all the way back to the end of the Flash 2022 annual, which seems an odd choice to me. But anyway, Wallace, definitely not Ace, is babysitting Irie and Jay plus Maxine, Animal Girl. And of course, stuff goes wrong. The bad guys here, who are apparently old enemies of these brand new not yet heroes, Knives Maroney, Dr. Nightmare, Reverse Grodd, Mineral Man, Foul Play, and Heatwave Jr., all really bad imitations of heroes. Seems a little weird. But so it seems that these baddies are from the future pulling a Barry to go back in time and change stuff. They should read more comic books. That shit don't end well. Wallace just leaves the kids there with the bad guys to go ask Mr. Terrific what to do. And that is when a very young John Kent and Damian Wayne show up, calling themselves the Super Sons. The kids all run away and end up in some place called the Forever Corridor. Wallace runs back to where the kids were, and he gets his ass kicked by a bunch of those really bad generic villains. Knives, the leader of the group, is given the Eternity Mind, this super powerful marble, and it lets him have whatever he wants. Then Jay and Irie win the day by talking too much. Everyone poofs home, and that Eternity Mind is left behind, and it is scooped up by Granny Goodness. Adams is leaving the book, setting up a story for the next dude. I don't know who is taking it. I can't remember. But if this is the angle... Is it Cy Spurrier? That is really interesting choice to put on Flash.
I think it's mostly Barry's story, too, which is annoying, but...
They're switching to Barry?
I think so. It's unclear, but it seems like
it's still
Barry.
Wally. It's
is
confirmed
it?
Wally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, because Wally
That's
going
good,
cosmic, I mean, I want to pass on that. What the hell is Barry even for now?
Yeah.
The art always looks good, but this is easily and by far the worst book in his Flash run. Another poorly written issue with outstanding art this week. I have been a fan of Jeremy Adams since day one on Flash, but I just didn't really get into it. It was goofy and just kind of offering fan service, having the Super Sons show up, which I thought was kind of a dumb idea. This was the book that I was looking forward to reading the most this week because The Flash is just regularly awesome. I honestly can't remember the last time since Adams was writing it that I didn't give it less than an 8.75. It being the one that I was looking forward to reading the most, that makes it my biggest disappointment. I'm not going to let the other bad books this week affect this issue's score, though, so I gave this one a 7.5 out of 10.
It's a 7 for me. I enjoyed it. It was fun, but also it was also kind of a pointless mess. And both of those things were true. I'm glad it existed, but it was also like, this was a choice. Like, I do not understand the point of this issue. What the goal was here, but like it was still fun. Like, I still enjoyed it, and I think one of the things that's been really fun is the Jay, Irie, and then Animal Man's daughter, whatever her name is, have like that dynamic
Maxine.
is really fun. And Maxine, and I feel like them seeing the Super Sons felt like something special. I like to envision in an alternate reality, you get like a new Young Justice. It's just like John Kent, Damian Wayne, and then like these three, and I think it'd just be so fun. But that alternate reality will never happen, so I'm just going to. But I like that he thought about that idea and tried to make it a reality as best he could. But I love, my favorite part though is how the timeline between the last issue of John Kent and of like Super Sons, and when John Kent leaves to go to Earth, like goes on his trip, which ends up aging him. I love how we keep getting more and more things that just happen in this timeline, and the number of things just keeps getting more and more absurd. Like, apparently we missed like 4 whole different adventures now in this exact small window. It's just hysterical.
Oh, like
DC wouldn't fuck up continuity like that, Nathan.
The the mini stories that they had going, like the
Yes, yeah, exactly, right? So there was Adventures of Super Sons. Then there was like the sequel to Adventures of Super Sons. Then we had like the digital exclusive, and that like the digital one shots or whatever, the Trial of Super Sons or whatever. And then now we've got this fourth journey. It's like we keep making like this. There's so much stuff that happened like this like very short time period that is just so funny to me because they're like
there's the one with the alien planet where they were obsessed with the heroes, and then they had to go up against like kid versions of the
there's
villains.
like 4 different miniseries after like
Which one was written by Ridley Pearson?
I'm talking about that specific one. Which one was that? If you
that was Adventures of the Super Sons, I think.
Okay, so Adventures of Super Sons. That's when this takes place, because they mentioned that
directly after that. Yeah.
Or
sometime
in the middle
between...
of it. In the middle of it.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
I assume that's my understanding.
Yeah,
I was a Super Sons fan when that stuff was getting released, but only for some of it. The Ridley Pearson stuff, I did not like. I didn't like what they did to Damien.
But whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, that's the alternate universe stuff. Okay,
so,
I don't count that.
Alternate universe intended for like 9-year-olds.
Yeah, it was not good.
That should be intended.
It pissed me off, as a matter of fact, because my kids
like
know who Damien is. My kids know who Damien is, and they know he's an Asian character. They know he's always been drawn Asian. And they were looking at that and going, why the fuck is he white? I mean, that's my 9-year-old.
I liked what they did with climate change in that issue, I like what they did with climate change there. This like alternate universe, potentially alternate universe where like climate change has become a massive problem and like flooding is like the sea level's really high. Like I think all of that worked pretty well. But otherwise, it was like
it was just the characters themselves. The story was not bad at all.
But regardless, it's nice to see the Super Sons back. It's clear that DC really wants to have like an ongoing Super Sons book, but can't make it work with continuity. And so like, what can we do to bring back this like beloved story and keep it going for forever? And so like, let's just keep making this time period longer and like more and more stories in this time period. At some point, I'm just like, let's just bring back young Jonathan Kent. Like, like at some point, let's just do it because.
Why don't we throw World's Finest in front of Super Sons?
I was thinking about that too, but to quote Nathan as well, I've been saying that for a while too. Bring young John back somehow, and my comparison to Reboot earlier also follows that suit, because in the later seasons of Reboot, that exact same thing happens. You have young Enzo and adult Matrix in the same place at the same time, and it was fantastic.
Here's the problem,
and I think they should do that.
We lose out on a lot of progression, and if
Blue thing.
If he goes back to 14, we lose his bisexuality.
No,
we lose everything that he's become.
No, you bring both back. Have you ever read X-Men Blue, or are you familiar with what they did with X-Men Blue?
Yeah.
So you do that. You bring back the original like 4, but like from that exact time period, from a moment.
Yeah.
And then they live as if they had jumped in time. And then whenever you're ready to move on or reconnect the storylines, probably when Damien's old enough that Super Sons doesn't work anymore, which would probably be in a year or two, like then you can reset. Say, okay, now we're sending you back to your original time. And when you get back to the present, you'll suddenly remember everything that happened in that gap.
Yeah.
That's the vibe. That's what I want them to do, just because I think they really want young Jonathan Kent back, and they're kind of stuck. But I don't think they're going to do it.
Bendis had the reins.
Yeah,
like that's like have both aged up John Kent and young John Kent together.
But I have it written better than X-Men Blue.
X-Men Blue
it's
fine.
Not necessarily
okay.
A good idea, but it's
it gave us Iceman coming out as gay, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
it gave us that great story, so I'm okay with it.
If you remember the timeline,
is that when Bobby
came out? I know I'm going on one more tangent here. If you remember the timeline, were they not alluding to present day Bobby being that before they brought the old team back, or did it all happen after they brought the old team back?
So they jumped forward in time, and Bobby was like, "This is a world where being gay is more okay." And having not had all like that trauma of hiding it for decades, like he felt more okay with it. And if I recall, Jane or not Jane, what's the female? I can't. Jean. Jean had like
Jean.
read his mind when he like the young Jean had like read his mind and realized that was on his mind, and then that's kind of where it came from. But like essentially the story was as a young person, this world makes me feel accepted. I want to come out, and Bobby had to deal with all these feelings that he like older Bobby had to deal with all these feelings that he'd hidden for a long time. And so, sort of in some ways, a retconny sort of situation, but like in this world where, like in an alter, if I had grown up and the environment was okay to be out, like, and I didn't have all the baggage of like trying to pretend to be straight for a long time, like I would feel like I would come out, but because so like I thought it was actually a really interesting, nuanced way to tell that sort of story, the sort of thing where you have to imagine if like they redid DC Universe today, like a lot of these characters would be out fairly early, right? And it wouldn't be as big of a deal. But because they have like decades of history in a world where being gay was not accepted, like there's baggage, it's harder to come out, and like there's a lot of weight to it. That's kind of the vibe I got. But anyway, fair. Regardless of that, you can definitely tell a young John story by doing time warp things. But I think that's more or less all we have to talk about this week, right?
That is it. Other than our wrap up.
Okay.
I haven't even reviewed Flash yet.
Go ahead. Get your feelings then. I've got dinner on the table. I'm ready to cook.
All right.
So, sorry.
Uh-oh. There's a lid for your water bottle, right? These things happen. So, despite all this, I think it was a lot of fun. It's issues like this that make me very sad. Adams is going to be off the book soon because I really enjoyed it. But it is also issues like this that make me very excited for his GL run, which is coming in a few short weeks. I'm very happy to see the Super Sons, but it did make me miss their adventures more. I do really enjoy current John and Damian, but John and Damian as kids together just didn't get the time it needed, as we've already talked about. And this story that Adams has going on, he's kind of hinting at a team of super kids with Jay and Irie and Maxine among potentially others. It sounds like he's got a story he wants to tell about that, and he's building up to it, but hopefully one day he actually gets to, because who knows if that was supposed to be part of his ongoing Flash story, at which he's now getting like the short stick on. I would love to see that, because I think that's an interesting idea. All in all, I really enjoyed it. Uncle Ace definitely has a good time to shine here. 9 out of 10. Really liked it. And that is the books. Now we will get into our top 3 books of the week and favorite moment if you had one. Nathan, what you got, bud?
My favorite book this week is far and away Superman #3. I think it just really shines. My number 2 would probably have to be Catwoman. And then my number 3 is probably World's Finest. Very solid week. Very content with this week. My stinker of the week would probably be... I don't know, there wasn't really a bad issue this week. I guess like Superboy was probably the one I was least feeling of what I read this week.
Fair enough. Josh, what about you?
Third place, I'm gonna give to Static Shadows of Dakota. That fucking book is awesome. I forgot to mention it in the honorable mentions, but it is just tearing it up. The entire Milestone universe is awesome. Number 2, I'm gonna give to Superboy Man of Tomorrow. While I think it's not the right art for the issue, it was really good for what it was. And number 1, I think the best issue of this week by far was Catwoman. And my favorite moment, I suppose, is going to be in World's Finest when Clark tells Bruce to try having a job sometime. That was pretty fucking fun.
Yeah, that was cool. For me, number 3, I had Superman #3. Number 2 was Flash 797, and number 1 Stole the show for me. Superboy, Man of Tomorrow, #1 was my highest score. Favorite moments, honestly, was Damien and John just showing up as kids. It was such a joy to see. I got really excited when they were on page. All right, so that was our favorite moments, and now it's time for your favorite moments. It is
the biggest thinker.
Oh, that's nasty.
It usually
Nathan,
is.
I know you mentioned your lack of one. I also have a lack of one. Oh no, you did say kind of Superboy potentially, but I liked everything this week. I honestly did. I don't have a biggest stinker. If I checked out Black Adam, it might have been Black Adam because I've been getting bored of about that book, but I have not had a chance to check out this week's issue.
All right, and let's flip over Two-Face's coin to the scarred side because my biggest stinker is This Week in Comics. Highly unsatisfactory. Other than Catwoman, I really felt like I was making exceptions. Everything felt mostly everything felt weak, meek, fluffy fill-in type of reading. And felt really let down, man. Over $30 in just the main comics, plus all the honorable mentions, and we got just under maybe $10 worth of value. I don't have a specific issue this week because nearly every single one of them sucked. But don't take my word for it.
So dark. Oh man. Okay. I know I say it every week, but I think we've done enough. No last minute thoughts. we've had a lot of thoughts this week. So that is our show. I hope you stuck around for the whole thing. It's definitely been a long one, but there was a lot to talk about. If you want to talk to us some more, you can get in touch with us by sending us an email to comics@notarobotpodcast.com. Check us out on Twitter @notarobotcomics and Instagram @NARComicBooks. Visit buymeacoffee.com/NAR podcasts to help support us and check out our own Discord server where you can chat with us anytime you want, as long as we're awake. Honestly, don't text us in the middle of the night. That's just unfair. Also, check out our Substack for bonus reviews, articles, and more. Josh is up. I'm usually up. And as always, there's only one way we say goodbye around here. Until next time, be good to each other.
And don't be a robot.
Just